partners. Then, as our foreign partners, as you go back to your partner organization, you may add some value from what we are doing. You can see our communities are actually based on self-help structure. At this level, if you look at these women, it is their own initiative to come and work together. That is how most of the communities work in Africa. And when you visit these communities, when you visit these people, you find they work together, they work in turns. There are a number of them, but they allocate days. Every day they work in one person's field. And in this group, they have a saving system, what GlobeMed was explaining to us. So what we just do is build on what they are already doing. Before we started our program, we found these people were working together, were having their own savings, but they were using the savings to help somebody who is sick or to help when somebody has died. You can see saving for sickness and burial. So we had to come out and change that idea. We said, you can save, you can use your saving to improve your standard of living, to improve your income, other than keep the money there to wait for somebody to die so that you have a decent value. So you can see communities have different ideas, but you can build on those ideas to improve their living. Now, from what you have seen to that level, bringing in different ideas, sharing different ideas to see what they can build. Enterprise development, enterprise selection, that has been the problem. You give them what is current on the market, what is needed. Like now our middle class is coming up and the vegetable is on a very high demand. So introducing vegetables in these communities and the turnaround, the turnover of vegetables, like in a season, in a year you can have 3 to 4 planting seasons for vegetables. It increases the income, it increases their savings. And we have a self-empowered community. Community doesn't have to depend on us as an organization. So that is our model. The community is independent. Whenever you go to the community, they don't ask you for money. They don't say they are lacking money. They are already empowered. Then after the community was empowered, then we had to come to look at ourselves at organizational level. Say, now the community is empowered. How do we empower ourselves? So we created different income generation activities, a number of them, and we are one of the very few organizations, what we can say in Africa, that is not being funded. If you ask me, what do we need? We need partners. If there are funders who want to give us money and say, what do we need? What do you need this money for? We say, no, we need this money to bring 20 GlobeMed students. We need partners. What have we done with the GlobeMed? We have been with GlobeMed for the last 5 years. And it is in the last 5 years that our lives changed in the organization. Visibility. We have a website. The website was designed by GlobeMed. We didn't have any website. Now if you go on the internet, you will be able to find GFO. 5 years ago, GFO wasn't there. That's why we need partners at all levels. We need capital. Like GlobeMed was saying, resources are limited all over the world. It's very difficult to get resources. You can wait for grants for 10 years and not get any. But you can talk to somebody, say, need capital, and pay you back with the interest. It's give and take. That is actually the model we are using. We are discussing the partners, friends who give us money from Canada, from US, and we pay them back. Then we are able to empower these communities, we are able to empower our organization. So that's how we are self-sustaining. That's one model we thought to share with you, and we will be able to share with your partners. We are 3 people here. I'd like to introduce Trina, works with us as a technical advisor. You can ask her very many questions. We have Martin behind there. They talked about him handling all these logistics. So you all get to hotels. It's because of GFO. And we didn't get any funding for that because we have internal capacity. Now, at this moment, I'd like to introduce our moderator for this panel is actually Brian Hanson. Brian Hanson is the chair of the board of directors GlobeMed. He acts as the director of programs research and operations of the Buffett Center for International and Comparative Studies, director of the Center for Global Engagement, and a faculty member in the Department of Political Science and International Studies at Northwestern University. He teaches courses on international development, globalization, international political economy, and the changing role of the state in world politics. His current research is on community-based approaches to global development and the evaluation of international development projects. Brian serves on the boards of several internationally oriented organizations. He is vice chair for programming of the Stanley Foundation, which promoted multilateral approaches to address international peace and security challenges. He is on the board of the Foundation for Sustainable Development, which works with indigenous grassroots development organizations to address global issues of poverty, health, education, environmental sustainability, and poverty alleviation. He serves on the program committee of the Chicago Council on Global Affairs, and he is the former chair of the Chicago Global Donors Network. He also sits on the board of the Authors Trust and the Hanson Family Foundation. Previously, Brian has served as the foreign policy advisor to U.S. Senator Alan Dixon of Illinois, I believe, because it is IL, and in the Washington, D.C. Government Affairs Office of John Deere and Company. Brian received his BA from Grinnell College in Iowa and did his doctoral studies in political science at MIT. I don't know. So other panelists, Ash Rogers, Sigo Family Foundation, Dr. William Paseo, Brazilian Africa Network, Nicholas Mugabe, Global Health Corp, Majid Mago, Mulangwa Media Management.
Hearing it, and now I know my wife and children complain that they never see me. But I'm very fortunate to be here, and I'm really honored to moderate this panel. As we heard from Jeffrey, as we heard from Charles and Stevens this morning, all of the organizations in partnership with GlobeMed are community-based organizations. They believe in the talents and the skills and the power of individuals and communities coming together to affect change in their own life. And I think that's extremely important, and I think it's one of the most important things, quite frankly, as an educator for young people who are interested in international development to get an opportunity to have a first-hand experience with. At the same time, we also know that no one's community has all of the resources that are needed internally. And as we saw with Charles and Stephen's presentation, where they led us through a process where the goals and the capabilities of the community are identified, and then there's a process of seeking resources. And what this panel is built around is really an opportunity to talk about both the types of resources that are available to you in your organizations, as well as some very specific examples of organizations that may be helpful to you. We're representing here research and universities, funding organizations, human resources, as well as design and communication capabilities to tell your story. So let me briefly introduce our panelists so we can get to the substance of the questions here. Let me start right here closest to me. Ash Rogers is with the Siegel Family Foundation. She's the foundation's director of operations based here in Kampala. She directs the foundation's funding and non-monetary support of partners in Africa. Before she joined the Siegel Family Foundation, she was a Global Health Corps Fellow and worked as a project manager for the OWA Community HIV/AIDS Initiative. Her education background, she has a master's in public administration, a certificate in international development management from the Evans School of Public Affairs, the University of Washington. And after graduating school, she first interned with the EA Alliance of Nonprofits in Seattle, so she has both international and domestic experience. Next to her is Majid, and he is the design manager of Media Might Limited, which is a design and communications agency here in Kampala. He's passionate about all things design, and I'm always appreciative of people like you because those are not my skill sets, and believes that design can bring about social change. I very much agree. He holds an MA in Creative Enterprise Management and often advises clients on how to best harness the uniqueness of design to improve their competitiveness. We've heard a lot about the importance of being visible. He is an entrepreneurship mentor and often lectures on design and creativity. Next to him is Florence Kushabi from the Resilient Africa Network, which was pointed out at the beginning. Florence is a specialist in charge of university engagement within the Resilient Africa Network. She holds a PhD in computer science from the University of Groningen in the Netherlands and the recipient of several innovation awards. She's a senior lecturer in the Department of Computer Science of Makerere University and serves as the Director of Engagement Research and Innovation. She is a fellow in the leadership program of the International Women's Forum and has also served as the head of Computer Science Department in Makerere University. And then last but not least, Nicholas Mugabe from Global Health Corps. He's alumnus of the Global Health Corps program and currently acts as their alumni program country representative. He's a research lead with the Grameen Foundation Community Knowledge Network Project. And prior to joining Grameen, he was a lecturer at Makerere University in the Department of Sociology and Anthropology. He's worked as an infectious disease institute, as a distance learning officer, and professional development programs officer between 2009 and 2010. He holds an advanced Master's of Science in Development Evaluation Management from the Institute of Development Policy and Management at the University of Antwerp in Belgium, where he majored in managing aid and poverty reduction, monitoring and evaluation of donors programs. He also holds a Master of the Arts in Sociology and a Bachelor of Arts in Social Sciences from Makerere University here in Uganda. After all your accomplishments, I need to have a drink. So, as I set up this panel, it's really an opportunity for the people here to share with you their organizations and their work, and to have you all reflect on whether or not partnerships with these organizations, or organizations like these, might be helpful to you in accomplishing your goals of your organizations and your communities. And what I'd like to start the panelists off with is just to share with us briefly, and I stress briefly, as a professor I talk too much myself, but we've got 4 terrific people here. But if you could start just by sharing your organization and explain how you work with grassroots organizations, community-based organizations like those represented here in the room. And then also, if you could touch on what's unique about your organization, what sets you apart from some of the other organizations. And Florence, if you don't mind, the Resilient Africa Network got called out by Jeffrey at the very beginning. And I was wondering if you could start for us and share with us what the Resilient Africa Network is.
Sure. Thank you very much, Brian. Good morning to you all. As I've been introduced, I'm called Dr. Florence Tishabe, and I'm from the Resilient Africa Network, which is a network of 20 universities in Africa. And our mission is to bring the innovations from the universities to the communities. For some of you who have been in Uganda for some time, you will know about the car that the students in Makerere designed, the Kira EV. So that is one innovation which was good, well published, publicized, well funded by the president, and it was a good innovation. But right now, if you wanted to buy that car, you will not find it anywhere in Uganda. Even if you go to Makerere University, to the College of Engineering, and you say, I would like to buy that car, the Kira EV, they will tell you, we have moved on. We are now working on a bus. And that is something that most of the universities face, that the researchers are more interested in the breakthrough in research and less interested in making sure that their innovations are being used by the communities or by the intended beneficiaries. So Resilient Africa Network wants to, or it bridges that gap, bringing innovations from the universities to the communities. And last week, there were students who won an award in Russia. And what the students did, they came up with a new way of testing for malaria. So currently, how you test for malaria, you have to be pricked, then they take a blood sample, then they say you've got malaria or you don't have malaria. So what these students have done, they have come up with a way in which you just put your finger and it passes through some light, some laser beam, and then it tells you have malaria or not. So that is a breakthrough innovation. And it is one innovation that we really want to make sure that we filter through to the communities. Because if it can be done for malaria, then it can just be customized for even other diseases, which need some blood samples. So these are the kind of innovations that are coming out of the universities. Last month I went to Gulu University, and there's this student who had come up with a parabolic solar panel. And it is a cooker, actually, not a panel, it's a cooker. So currently most people, especially in the rural areas, they use firewood, or they use gas, the ones in the urban areas, or they use electricity. But it's all expensive. It's expensive for our environment, it's expensive for our pockets. So what this student did, he has come up with a solar heater, whereby you just bring your saucepan, put it on the heater, and it heats the food within a very short time. No expense whatsoever. No side effects whatsoever. So even the Vice Chancellor of Gulu University did not know about such innovations which are within his university. And I met him yesterday, and he said, thank you so much for bringing to my attention what is happening in my university, because I'm going to meet the president tonight, and I want to tell him about this parabolic solar heater. But if he hadn't come, I wouldn't have known even what's happening. And many students, they do very good things, but they don't know that they are very good things. So, generally, Resilient Africa Network is a project funded by USAID, which is going to identify such good innovations and to sponsor them so that they can be used by the communities. And we need the communities. We need partnerships with the organizations that deal with communities, because we intend to use those organizations, like GlobeMed, for example, like the Kitovu Mobile HIV/AIDS, organization. These are the ones that, and if you're interested, if you feel that you're interested in innovations and your community is using them, innovations in health, innovations in agriculture, innovations in environment, in urbanization and slum areas, and in conflict. We've got many camps which are sprouting, especially in Western Uganda, due to the insecurity in DRC, and even other camps caused by natural disasters, like for example the floods which happened in Kasese recently, and any other camps. So any areas in conflict, and if you feel that you work in those areas, we would love to partner with you so that we can, your communities can use the innovations which are coming out from the university.
Thank you very much. My mother always taught me women first. So let me move to Ash next to talk about the Siegel Family Foundation.
Thank you. So the Siegel Family Foundation, we have several of our partners in this room, which is exciting. So some of you know us. For those of you that don't, Siegel Family Foundation was started by Barry Siegel. He created a very profitable and successful company in the US. And after a trip to Rwanda that really was formative for him, maybe like the trip that a lot of the Americans here are on now, he decided that he wanted to give all of his wealth to philanthropy, and that was the genesis of Siegel Family Foundation. So now we have 130 NGO partners across the African continent. Most of them are in East Africa. And the heart of our portfolio are grassroots organizations, which we define as place-based organizations that are well connected to their communities. And we're specifically looking for organizations that have dynamic leadership, that have vision, and that know where they're going. The philosophy of our giving is sort of built around that. So we think that aid organizations and donors shouldn't just fund projects, that we should fund the entire organization. Siegel Family Foundation engages as thought partners as well as funders, and we want to grow with our organizations over time and help them build really robust responses to their community needs. We think that grassroots organizations, more than anyone else, are able to innovate local solutions, and that as aid priorities wax and wane and the pendulum sort of swings back and forth on what the West and the powers that be think is important, it's community-based organizations that remain there, that are the structures that are going to see development happen over time.
Thank you. Next. Sure.
Yes, hello. Good morning, everyone. Yes, my name is Majid, and I'm the design manager of Media Mind Limited. We are a design and communication agency, but for this particular forum, I think our offering would be best if I approached it from the branding perspective, because from here I see there are quite a number of NGOs and organizations that are trying to communicate themselves better. Now, most of the times, it is important, in spite of how good you are, to be able to communicate the work that you do ably, not only to your partners, but also to your teams with whom you actually work. So the main goal of MediaMind, for example, at the moment, is to enable organizations better communicate themselves and strengthen their brands, that way reaching the communities with which they're working with. So we've been able to do quite a bit of work. This particular one is with NGOs, but we work even with organizations outside of NGOs. We've worked with Google, we've worked with Mantrack, we've worked with FSD, we also work with FSD. So our offering is really diverse. We've done some work in northern Uganda because they were trying to rebrand at one time. I think almost everyone knows about all that has happened in northern Uganda. So as a result of that, northern Uganda has had quite a negative stint of publicity. But the Ugandan government and the societies in northern Uganda, that's Gulu, Lira, quite a number of them, it was important for them to be able to tell the world that they've actually gotten out of the LRA war, because it's been over 10 years now, and that it was important for them to get off being looked at as, excuse me, being looked at as a society that needs to receive handouts and becoming more of a self-reliant society. So some of the work that we did in northern Uganda was to be able to put in place a campaign that sensitizes not only Uganda, but also countries outside of Uganda and the people locally, to educate them about how much change has occurred since the end of the LRA war. So with that, we were able to do a photography campaign in which we were able to capture all the economic activities that have been done that show that these people have been able to take charge of their lives. So that is just one example of how we have been using design and branding to communicate the needs and the successes of the society. So in a nutshell, that's an example of what we do as a company.
Great, thank you very much.
Two organizations, one, the GlobeMed Co, and then the GlobeMed Foundation. I'll begin with the GlobeMed Co. Here is just an organization, an NGO, initiated by the first daughter, that's Barbara Bush, yes. And the philosophy is you pair up fellows, identify energetic, passionate, qualified young men and women. You pattern them, one fellow from the US and another in Uganda or another African country. And then they work together in a grassroots organization, an NGO, basically to promote health, equity and social justice. And here they work for a whole year as peers, but being mentored by the organization and also providing expertise. The end result is that if, therefore, you train and remunerate well these young men and women, they can bring impact to the organization. And as Ashley was explaining, she was one of the fellows, and now she's an alumni like me. I was the first fellow in Uganda, and so therefore we partner. This partnership is like international fellow and a local fellow. An international fellow is like when Ashley came to Uganda, she became an international fellow. But when Ugandans go to the US, then they are international fellows in the US. So basically, we work with several organizations in the sector, and this is to bring about that impact in terms of human resource, capacity building, and then strengthening partnerships. On the part of GlobeMed Foundation, as you heard, I'm the research lead, basically overseeing the research function in the GlobeMed Foundation. It's also an international NGO based in the US. Basically, we're dealing with innovation, and I think I'm very happy to be with resilience and then the designer. Here we have a technology, and this technology innovation we use is simply reach out to the poor people. Well, how does it work out? We have a smartphone technology and we customize it. One, I'll begin with data collection and monitoring and evaluation. We design dashboards, which dashboards capture timely information, and you can simply observe it in your cloud, on your internet, anywhere. And you simply give us those indicators, we track them over time, and as they are entered, the data is captured using a mobile phone. You don't need questionnaires, hard copy, and this mobile phone is directly uploaded, and then you can easily, it can generate charts, it can generate graphs for you, and according to how you need really to customize it. But also we have what we call ecology mapping. Ecology mapping, we simply use a smartphone technology still to map out the kind of land you use. We are simply working with farm organizations and farmers. In Uganda, we are working with 36 districts and have over 1,309 community workers. These community workers are trained and they are paired with a mobile phone. It has agriculture content, and this content they disseminate to the farmers. It's content about animal crops, management, disease, market, weather, and all that. So basically, that's what we are doing, and I'm supporting the monitoring research function. We work with these organizations. Our philosophy is, can we connect the potential of the poor? Can we connect the poor to their potential? Can we connect them in terms of give them information, mentor them, support them, and currently we are working with several organizations, FHI 360, we are working with NABS, we are working with World Bank, we are working with farmer radios, around the community radios around, and basically we are really trying to push up these innovations, and also we are now behind the mobile financial services, the mobile money, and then how to help the poor save, and also have targets in terms of financial services. So basically, that's the kind of work we are doing. We are doing a lot of work in terms of, really we are partnering with organizations in Uganda and even internationally. We are supporting other countries, and that's the kind of model in terms of GlobeMed Foundation. Thank you.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you for being so brief. What I'd like to ask you to do next is you've had a chance to introduce your organization and give us a general sense of types of work that you do. I was wondering if you could cite an example, and in some of the introduction you provided some examples, but with the community-based organizations that we have here in the room, I was wondering if you could share an example of a time that you've worked with an organization like this, and what you've been able to bring and contribute, and what that resulted in for that organization. Give everybody even a more concrete sense of the role that you play. And I'll just go right down the panel if you don't mind picking on that.
So I think a good example would be an organization that we have here in this room, which is Checheme Community-Based Healthcare. And Checheme is a community-based organization in Mukono, and it's led by Ruben Mabiru, who is really this example of this type of visionary that we're talking about. So here's an organization that was started in the grassroots, but that's really kept their own vision in place. So they know what they do. They provide quality health care to people in their catchment area, and then think about what are the important other aspects that aren't traditionally thought of as health that connect into that. So thinking about livelihoods, about food security, in really intelligent ways, and trying to connect that to the health center. So Ruben's organization has this vision, and Siegel Family Foundation tries to think about how we can support it. So with Ruben, we've supported him in various different ways over the years, and originally through just monetary support, so with providing a grant, so that they could build extra infrastructure around their clinic, so they could pay staff salaries, so that they could enact new programs. And what we like about Ruben's organization, about Checheme, is that they're not aid mercenaries. Right? If they come across money from a larger institution that wants to do school sponsorships for secondary students in Kawembe, right? Then Ruben will say, no, that's a great idea, but actually this is our mission, this is our vision, this is where we're going, and this is how you can support it. The other way that we've been able to work with Checheme is through providing connections to different organizations and thinking together about what partnerships they could develop in Uganda and outside of Uganda. And so one example is GlobeMed. GlobeMed's a great resource for community-based organizations, as all of you can tell us. Another example is Global Health Corps. So this year, Checheme will be receiving Global Health Corps Fellows, which will provide this year-long support to the organization, and hopefully ties to the US and ties to really qualified folks here in Uganda. A third example is Planned Parenthood Federation of America, which is a partner of Siegel Family Foundation and now a partner of Checheme, and they're working together on a really innovative project called a Youth Peer Provider Program, which is it's empowering youth leaders to provide reproductive health information and access to reproductive health services to their peers, because I think, as we can all say, it's uncomfortable to get reproductive health information often from your parents or from someone who's your parents' age, and you'd much rather ask your friends about things like sex and condom use and how HIV is transmitted. And so Checheme is doing a really great job sort of innovating off of that program of Planned Parenthood and figuring out how it can work for their community in Mukono.
most of the time the work that we do really is about visibility. Like I said, we've been able to work with, I think about 2 or 3 NGOs on helping them get more visible. An example would be, we've worked with FSD, because they've been having the short-term learning, I think, field trips, Now, with those, we've been going into the field with them, and we've been trying to document all the work that has been happening. Because FSD has quite a number of partner organizations locally, and it is through them that it provides support. But it is not enough for it to be just maybe on paper. It is important to create that emotional attachment for people who are able to view the work that is being done, for example. Because, for example, when they're bringing in interns, we felt it would be a boost for them if they were able to get footage of the work that the interns are doing, and maybe the experiences that they've been faced with before they came in, maybe their preconceptions, for example, and what they've been able to learn having engaged in the field trips. So we've been able to document that, and right now we are working towards pitching them on an idea on how they should use social media, because we feel, aside from getting all that information, it is important for it to be visible worldwide, because that is how you basically link into the communities in which you're working, and that's how you generate even more interest and partnerships. So we are giving them, we're working on giving them a social media adoption strategy on how they can best use most of this. Now, the second example that we were doing was the Northern Uganda rebranding exercise. Like I said before when I was introducing myself, it was important for the local community to be viewed in a totally different light, away from the darkness that was associated, or that still is in some places associated with the LRA. So for them, it was important to be able to, for example, show that the communities have moved out of the camps in which they were living. So for that, design communication is mostly a visual thing. So it was important to get images, photographs, that were not intrusive, but then showed the societies in their actual, should I call it, in their element, away from being within the camps. So we documented that. We did a lot of photography for that. We did a lot of video, and that was put up online to enable the whole world to change their perceptions of what Northern Uganda is. So that is kind of the thing that we do as an organization. So if it is about creating a brand identity, that's when organizations do come to us. Because it's one thing having, for example, a website that is so totally inconsistent that whoever comes to your site is not even sure what it is that you're trying to, not only sell, but what you're also doing. So for us, it's about giving consistency in communication and, creating that emotional attachment in all your stakeholders. So I think that's the best way I can put it.
Terrific. And Florence, you're with an organization that's just getting going. So what would you like to share about what an example might be of a way that an organization could work?
We actually have done a lot, although our organization is very new, but we have already been active in 4 communities. And the first one is in Otuke. Otuke is a district in northern Uganda, and it suffers from famine, periodic famine. So Resilient Africa Network is about solutions which improve the resilience of communities, meaning that we want to make innovations or interventions that can either prevent that shock or that stress, or to mitigate it, because you may not be able to prevent, for example, a landslide, but at least when it happens, how can you mitigate its effects or recovery from the shock? So famine is one of the issues that we are tackling in Otuke district, and we have already got some students there's a student who made a crop yield predictor before the yield. Let's say if that crop, he did it in rice. If rice, let's say, takes 4 months to mature up to harvesting, Then at 2 months, that crop yield detector can tell how much rice is going to be harvested. And this is a breakthrough actually, because it was 80% accurate. So right now we are testing this innovation in Otuke district. Then in Bududa, same thing. Bududa is a district in eastern Uganda, and they are prone to landslides. And again, we got a student in the faculty of engineering, and he came up with a landslide detection system, which we are currently testing before we can, scale up. But we're testing it in Bududa, and we shall be giving you feedback of the results. And also in Kasese, there are floods which happened in Kasese in May this year. We went to Kasese, we did a documentary, we wrote a report, and right now we are soliciting for innovations which can solve some of the challenges that they were facing. So we got the universities, we showed the students this video, and then they brainstorm on what they can, what they can come up with. Then also in Chotera. Chotera is a district in central Uganda, and for Chotera we have connected them to USAID funding to improve the resilience of children in Chotera. And Chotera is well known to be one of the districts which has got a lot of HIV history. And then those children are not as resilient. So for them, we got funding of $400,000 from the USAID, $400,000 US to improve the resilience of the children there. That's so far what we have done.
Yeah, thanks. I'll build on GlobeMed Foundation in terms of what we have done using our technologies. As I told you, we are in 36 districts supporting over 1,309 farmers. And these farmers, how are they supported? We have a technology, a smartphone loaded with agriculture information content about the farming systems, about weather, about marketing, about crop management, animal management, disease, and all this kind of housing and all that. So these farmers, they are solicited by the community, and the community therefore depends on them in a radius of a parish. So they go on, we give them targets, they go on disseminating information to the farmers. They go to the farmer, what do you want to know? Then the weather information just comes to the farmers as in terms of the POP. The POP means reminder messages, please, maybe it's going to rain, please prepare your garden, something like that. The other part we have learned from the community that really farmers are improving on their yields, how they use this information, for example, to carry out good agricultural practices. Yesterday I was in Kasese and it was amazing to learn how a farmer, for example, testifies, I was using this pod, this information, to plant my tomatoes, and the spacing you guys, and just get this information about the spacing, and then I can know this is the kind of spacing, this is the kind of pesticides I should use, this is the kind of the content. The other part which is very interesting is the issue of log technologies. We have learned and even helped farmers how to use the log technologies they have, for example, the new farming systems. And those who are in the agriculture sector, you can learn that there is an innovation where a farmer uses a herbicide. Okay? There are modern herbicides, but this one uses a herbicide using other crops, garlic, pepper, and what herbicide for disease, for weeds and something like that. So it's very amazing. That's in terms of the farmers, what they are doing. But also we have the farm call center where farmers plan and are given information also. Clarity is about some diseases, some crop management. So in this, one thing you can realize that in the district where we are, the recent evaluation carried out, farmers who have ever received information from our CKWs, 91% of them are active. If the information is, for example, in the mountainous areas, it's about terraces. Terracing is, you shouldn't grow on this road, in this direction, or in this kind of farming. And then farmers have done that accordingly. It's about intercropping. Now they know what intercropping is, which crops should you grow together and which you shouldn't grow together. And that one has increased yields. But the most important thing is about reading their lives. They have now mobilized themselves into small saving village schemes, and these they have what we call peer champions. They identify champions farmers. They are now thinking about how we protect our savings in terms of corrective marketing and corrective bargaining, but also the other parties, they are concerned about their health. And so they don't only discuss issues of farming. And the other part about our partners is the partners with using our technology. I told you about Plan Uganda and Opportunity Bank, HI 360. All these are our technology solutions. For acre mapping, many farmers don't know their land, how much do they have, how much do they acre, how many acres do they have. So they are using that. But also, they are using our technology to capture information, baseline surveys, endline, midline, and all this is really helping them have timely decision making, for example, and knowing the impact, how we measure impact in the shortest time possible. So they just design the surveys and then we administer them, we have this data and then we can advise them. So this kind of information is very vital and is helping our communities. By the way, it's not limited to agriculture. In the health field, for example, health sector, we have these guys who are looking for these indicators, for example, children, which type of diseases are very massive, how do they mitigate them? You know, how many times do you take them for immunization, for example? So these are kind of information really which we are capturing on a timely basis. So that kind of technology we are supporting and giving our local people using partner organizations, but also now part reaching out to the farmers directly using the CKW model.
Terrific, thank you. It's very clear in listening to you that all four of you have a great deal to offer through your partnerships with your organizations. And one of the things that I think is important is there are always, as we've talked about already and always will, there are never enough resources for any of us. So I was wondering if you could each say a little bit about how you select the partners that you work with, and what do you look for in a partner? Because we've got people out here who are running organizations. Some of them may have gone, I need to talk to that person. That could be very useful for me. But I have no doubt you have more people coming to you wanting to partner than you probably have the capacity to partner with. So what are some of those characteristics? What can people do to stand out and really help you see that there is a mutual benefit in this partnership and that you want to partner with that organization?
All right. Yeah, I think this is a really great question. Segal Family Foundation, we receive about 50 applications a month from different organizations, and there's a lot that you can do to sort of stand out. But I think more it's about matching vision. And so, Segal Family Foundation, we have a vision that we see, and we have a type of organization that we're interested in supporting. So we're interested in supporting these grassroots organizations, and then on top of that, we have 3 thematic areas, which is reproductive health, food security, and youth empowerment. And so our vision has to match with your vision for us to be able to work together, right? And like I mentioned with the example of Chetume, which is also true of another GlobeMed partner, Change a Life Uganda, and Mpoma Community HIV/AIDS Initiative, all 3 have their own visions and they know where they're going, right? If you were walking to Kampala from Bisheni and you didn't know which way to go and you're sort of wandering around, it doesn't help if I give you a motorbike, right? You're not going to get to Kampala any faster, you're just going to get lost faster, isn't it? So we're interested in helping organizations that know where they're going, that have decided what their plan is, and that we can really engage at that point as thought partners. The second is that it has to match our vision. So we have to look at each other and see, do we have like the same vision of the world? Are you implementing projects that our bosses say that we're allowed to fund, right? And another important piece of this is that, which I think is true of a lot of funders, we don't want to be the only partner, right? We can't be 100% of an organization's funding, because rightly so we fear about what happens if we're not able to support you year after year, or if our priorities change. So we want to work with organizations that have other partners on board that have mapped the landscape that they're working in and have found other sources of funding and other income generating activities that can help sustain them year after year. We have really good examples of that in Uganda, where organizations, they first look at their local communities and seeing what's there, right? What can our beneficiaries do to contribute to our project? Then they look at, one layer after that and they say, okay, there's a government structure that's here. There are resources that come into it. Maybe it's effective and maybe it's less effective, but let's try to see what we can get there first. So they know their CDO, which is the Community Development Officer. They know what resources come through that person, and they know what other organizations are working in their area. They try to engage the district government and see if there's any resources that they can reach there, and they try to reach out to other NGOs and see how they can partner. A good example is Chachame and Mpoma, which are both GlobeMed partners, and they're both in Makono district. And so they've decided, instead of competing with each other, let's figure out how we can collaborate and how we can share the resources that we have. So they partner together on Mpoma's health outreaches, where Chachame comes and brings their transport and 2 lab technicians, and Mpoma is able to mobilize the community because they're on the ground. And together they do these outreaches, and they've reached out to another organization, which is Nguru Teenage Center, which is also a Siegel Family Foundation partner, and they've said, look, we need help with getting condoms, we need help with getting other family planning implements. Can you give us to those, and we'll do good reporting for you, and then we'll be able to reach these communities better. So when we see organizations reaching out in this way, and we see that they're really trying to pull in all the resources around them, then we think that we can probably provide something that will be a bit more sustainable and that organization is actually able to grow over time.
Right. We tend to work more in the, they say, what should I put it? We tend to work more in the financial side of things, unfortunately, but realistically. Right. But first, for us, the most important thing when we're thinking of organizations that we want to work with is the potential for impact, the reach. The wider the reach an organization is able to have, the better for us. Because first off, we also crave the same visibility. We like being part of something that is seen or that is succeeding. So for us, impact is one of the most important. The second, for me, would be the social benefit. Because, you can't always be on the receiving side of things. I don't think that is a fair model to be adopting ever. So one of the most important things for us is the social benefit. If we do work with an organization, we have to believe and see that the work that we're doing is going to be beneficial, not only to the organization per se, but also its partner organizations. So that will be the case for FSD, because we feel the work that they're doing is, well, Foundation for Sustainable Development, in case you didn't know. We feel the work that they're doing is really changing people's lives. Because they've been able to provide so many water harvesting tanks, for example, to families that previously couldn't have access to water at all. And the fact that that water has been brought to these families is literally changing the way the women in those families are living. Because before they'd have to travel so many kilometers and then they'd be so open to rape and all the negative things that are associated. So social benefit is something that is really high up on our requirements. The second would be, the third would be the degree of participation or an openness to experiment. If you're to be working with an organization and they just want your run-of-the-mill solution, like just go pick up a textbook and work on something, we find that really boring, unfortunately. So we really prefer working with organizations that are willing to try new things, try things out differently, and see if those solutions ultimately do have an impact. Last of those would be, of course, the resources that I mentioned earlier. If an organization does have, they needn't be crazy amount of resources, but as long as they're able to bring something to the table, it helps. It helps a lot. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you. I'm not going to add much because my colleagues have already said. I'll just add 2 extra points. And the first one is we want to work with organizations that are going to add value to our agenda. So we have to see that you will be beneficial to us, and we shall also be beneficial to you. Then the second one, we want to work with organizations that are active, that have got champions who are proactive, who we shall not have to always be, following up and reminding about issues and doing this, doing that. If we have agreed that we're going to maybe host a joint event, then we would expect the champions to quickly identify the beneficiaries of the target community, to bring them on board, to attend the meetings on time without us having to do a lot of administrative, support, if I can call it that.
I'll begin by asking just a few questions. For example, why would you want partnership? What kind of partnership would you like to have? What are your goals, objectives, vision, mission of your organization? Are you looking for resource partnerships in terms of finance, human resources? Are you looking for issue-based partnerships, a concern for healthcare, agriculture, education, name it? So in this, then those questions, if you have them at the back of your mind, then you can decide which kind of partnership you want. Do you want strategic partnership? Basically, something which can help you somewhere. Specifically now, the GlobeMed Foundation. The kind of partnership we work with, first of all, are partnership of innovation, using ICT. If you're interested in using ICT in whichever sector, that kind of partnership will welcome it. And currently, as I've told you, we are working with different organizations, NGOs, the agro-input dealers, farmers association, commercial banks, government, and here the point of is ICT for development, ICT to help the poor. And our mission is simply, how can we connect the poor to their potential? So such kind of shared understanding, shared feeling of the community, shared vision, related activities like that. But of course, we can't partner with organizations which are unlawful. That one we are best served. By unlawful, I mean, we always have to just check on, we call it offer. We vet the organization's legality, the kind of activities. Is it not terrorist related? Is it not engaging in drugs? Is it not engaging in other things which really are not in our philosophy? That's the other thing. Of course, you must have concern of the poor. You must have the concern of the poor. How best can we help them, whether improving their health, whether improving their purchases and livelihoods, So at the end of the day, these partnerships are always guided by such kind of vision, such kind of organization philosophy, the objectives, what are you aiming at the end of the day. And sometimes it could be in terms of human resources, learning from another organization. Unfortunately, because I've at least worked with so many organizations and even consulted with majority of them, what they have is the problem of partnership for finances only, which is really a smallest part of partnership. Because to me, the partnership is beyond finances. Finances come automatically because of this partnership. But if you have strategic partnerships, which are issue-based partnerships, for example, all of you are concerned about the health of the people, about the education of the people, about livelihoods, about innovation, about science, childbirth and mortality and all these other issues, then okay, it's already an issue-based partnership, which automatically means funding will come as a result of this issue-based partnership. Instead of saying, what kind of, you shift goalposts, many organizations shift goalposts, because they are seeing funding here, so you shift the goalposts for that funding. But if you stick to your philosophy, to your vision, to your issues you want to address to the operation, then partnerships will come. But of course, I agree with my designer. You must have visibility. This visibility is not, these days you have social media. How much use of this social media cause impact, visibility? And then people know what you are doing. And therefore, services of designers, services of ICT coming to really communicate this impact. She has just been telling us a very good innovation, but even the Vice Chancellor of the university doesn't know. You know? How do you then really scale up this impact? Those are kind of partnerships. Their partnerships deal with awareness. For example, media, you know, social media and then the other traditional media we have. For us, we are moving away from the traditional extension services to farmers to ICT-related, ICT-enabled extension services. You know, using the farmer himself, but enabled with content, enabled with the technology, and then timeliness. So, I think in this forum we need to really broaden our understanding of partnership and then define it according to what you believe in, according to the vision you have, according to objectives, according to the kind of issues you want to address in the community.
Thank you. Well, one of the things I've learned about partnership is you're supposed to share what you have, and one of the things I have is this microphone. And I want to create a little bit of time to share it with you, with our partner organizations, and allow you to ask questions directly of our panelists. So, who would
my question goes to single family. Like I was talking about the model we are using, we are trying to move away from donations to capital. And is there a way we can get capital from this family? Because we have realized it is easy to talk to people about capital, where it is a win-win situation. You negotiate interest, then after a certain period of time, you pay back the money. So that's where we are going to. And then there are a few other partners who are still interested in donations. And what we do with the communities is this donation goes into the community, the groups we are showing up out there, they become like a revolving fund. So this money goes into the community and doesn't come out. So people already saving and they improve in their productivity. So now like one family, after they have recovered what they have borrowed from the community, it goes into another family, it goes and it is working quite very well. So is it possible to support that kind of initiative?
Yeah, it's a great question. So if I'm getting your question about capital, you're interested in types of loans and other sources of financing beyond donations, isn't it? So, yeah, I think this is a really exciting sector for philanthropy, which is a little bit beyond microcredit, right? So we're not talking about lending to individuals, we're talking about what other structures beyond sort of a traditional nonprofit structure are there out there. So sort of looking at social businesses and looking at nonprofits that have this income generating arm, and then what type of capital is appropriate for them. So if you're income generating and you know that you can make a profit, you know that if you're given this chunk of money that you can grow it, then why would you get a grant? You should get a loan, right? Now I think this is a really great question because this is difficult for philanthropists because we're slow moving and we get easily confused. And we're, at Single Family Foundation, we're trying to think about what other types of financing we can offer, but we're not great at it yet. We've been experimenting with what we're calling program-related investments, which are different types of financing that we can provide organizations. But we've been doing that with social businesses or social enterprises that have a really clear business plan and a really good case that they're going to make money. Some resources that are here in Uganda that you might look at if you're interested in alternative types of financing beyond grant funding. There's an organization called Mango Fund that's based here in Kampala, and they're looking at how they can create alternative types of financing to organizations that aren't the right fit for a bank because they don't have collateral and they don't have sort of the certifications that will enable them to get a bank loan, but then also don't want to pay the exorbitant rates of local lending. So they're trying to be right in the middle there, and they have worked with nonprofits in the past, so that might be an option. Another sort of innovator in this space of lending is Kiva. And so I think everyone knows Kiva traditionally as an organization where you can go online and you can donate a little bit of money so that Maria and the village can have a goat, right? So Kivas now is thinking about other ways that they can provide that same platform of individual giving, which is usually in the global west and the global north, and how they can use that same amount of capital for different types of purposes. And one of the things that they're looking at is how they can work with nonprofit organizations. And they're still innovating around exactly how that looks, but they'd be interesting to reach out to and see if there's options there.
I just wanted to ask on two aspects. One is the capacity needs of the partners. How do you deal with the capacity of the partners you deal with? Especially if it comes to the ICT applications. How do you deal with that? Because it looks like it's too dynamic and you're dealing with a farmer. Number two, how have you tried to ensure sustainability? What you establish, a linkage you have established, or an approach you have used in visibility, so that when you go away as a designer, at the end of the day you see the efforts you put in are even better than the way you did that. I want to find about that. Thank you very much.
I have two questions, one for Nicola and second for Dr. William. My first question to Nicola was used to be similar to the previous one. Maybe with the farmers, most of them are used to be illiterate, and you are using smartphones and the high technology applications. How do you make sure that they get the information you are sending to them? And my second question for Dr. William, you used to detect those innovation ideas from the students from different campuses. So how do you use to, or how many times do you visit those universities to find those innovative ideas? And because sometimes we as students, we used to do innovative ideas for just getting marks and being graduated, but not for be usable by the people. So how do you to detect those innovations? Thank you so much.
Capacity needs and sustainability. Well, for us, everything is really going 2.0 now, like Web 2.0, where all content generated is actually owned by individuals apart from corporations. So what we do, for example, we're constantly encouraging our clients to use social media ardently. So, for example, if I had to work with a farmer or a small organization, the first thing that we'd engage in is teaching them how to use social media by themselves. So we implement the project in the beginning, but then we teach them how to use these tools by themselves. And thereafter, should there arise a situation where they need help, that is when we come in. Because for us it is important to build the linkages, the connections, the relationships. So it's not really a one-off thing. As soon as we come in and do some work with an organization, we provide them with support, and thereafter, in case there's anything that comes in, we are able to, bolster whatever project they're working on. So it is a continuous thing. It's not really a one-off. And in terms of finance and the lot, every client has totally different needs from the other. So it is really a negotiation between the new partner to be on how best we can meet each other's needs best. Yeah, thank you.
In terms of fundraising, I just want to offer a few resources that I think are especially relevant for this room, because we have CBOs and leadership of CBOs, but we also have these GlobeMed partners who hopefully can support you in your fundraising efforts. And the first resource that I hope everyone can look into is Rotary. So we have Rotary here in Uganda, and CBO should really make an effort to be part of their local Rotary chapter. And at the same time, all GlobeMed participants can be part of their chapters in the US. And how Rotary works is they have this partnership model where if you have a Rotary chapter here in Uganda, partner with a Rotary chapter in the US, then you're able to build more funds. So look into that resource. A lot of our partners have been able to get really cool projects and some great materials out of partnerships with Rotary. The other source of funding that you might look into are the small grant programs at the various embassies. So not just in Uganda, but in any African country that you're working. Through the US Embassy, there's a small grant program. Through the Ambassador Self-Help Fund, there's often a PEPFAR small grant program through that same office, and sometimes they'll have either a democracy or a peace and security small grant that's available through that office. In Uganda, Japan also has, the Japanese embassy also has a small grant program that's very active. And in other countries, there'll be different embassies that will provide those similar programs. And you know, like any grant that you're applying for, it's about writing the grant application and being very clear in the programs that you want to do and having that document be strong. But it's also about trying to build a relationship with the actual people who are administering that grant. And so something that GlobeMed can do and something that the partners here can do is to try to connect to those folks who are actually the ones who are going to be reading the grant applications. And the third thing I want to say is that for community-based organizations, I think sometimes when you're fundraising, you have a microphone like this and you're trying to yell louder and louder so that people can hear you, so that people can catch your vision. But I think the opportunity of these GlobeMed folks are here is that you're able to give the microphone to them and have them mobilize their communities in the US and try to pass on your message along with you. And so the GlobeMed folks that are here, I think that's really your duty going forward, is to how you can learn as much as you can about your partner organization, really understand their vision so that you can represent it when you go back home and you can find more supporters that can contribute to these really great causes and really important community efforts that you've been able to witness.
Terrific, thank you. Ending on a call to action is always a good way to end a panel, and I know that the next action for us is to head to lunch. But before we do that, please join me in thanking this terrific panel.
Hi again, everyone. I think this panel started some incredible conversations that I would really want to press for you. So please make sure that you are heading this way about 1:15, and that's when we'll get started. And then after that, we're going to continue talking in the same vein as our designer here about how we can really communicate our stories, our challenges and successes, and mobilize more support. And that'll happen in our Media for Community Mobilizing session. Then we'll have some breakout sessions where we'll actually do some small groups in our cross-community challenges session. And we'll be talking about our challenges and successes in the context of sustainable agriculture, girls' education, and community health worker programs. And then we'll finish the day with some brief speeches about how we can continue to collaborate to meet our challenges head on and ultimately be successful. So once again, will you join me in thanking everyone who came up here this morning? And please enjoy your lunch outside, and we'll see you here at 1:15. Thank you.
Uganda, and we're now at 6 countries. But love it. So you're based in Philly?
Yeah, I'm based in
Okay. Haven't been up there for a while.
I'm a visible child. And then from the
I'm the Programs Director in Health Development Initiative is a Rwandan organization working to promote community-based healthcare development in Rwanda. And for working on, to achieve our objective, we are just working in 3 programs: family and community health, education, medical and technical support, advocacy and policy monitoring. So I will present with you one of the activities we have done on advocacy and policy monitoring. It's just advocacy work, just a few presentations about how we was conducting that advocacy. Normally advocacy, it's a very difficult topic and it's very challenging. So when you say that you are doing advocacy, you have to accept all the risk behind that. So you know, when you are advocacy, it's just a strategy bringing pressure to those who hold resources to make a change you want. So if you want to make a change you want, you have to put that pressure, and you have to know that there is so many risks behind. So the activity I'm going to present to you, we was doing that, and you know, in developing countries, it's a very challenging program, and it's very controversial issues. When you are talking on that, you have to know that there is so many things behind. So you have to use media in order to achieve your advocacy work, especially when you know that there is controversial issues. You have to immediately to work with media. So I have a very nice quote. One of my favorite quote is I remember it was in 2008, the President Obama, when he was running for president in New Hampshire, he said, if you are walking down the right path and you are willing to keep walking, eventually you will make progress. So which means that if you know what you are doing, you know that you are doing in the right way and the right thing, for sure you will achieve what you want to achieve. Even when before starting that campaign, there was so many debates in the parliament was discussing about the penal code, and that penal code was going to criminalize LGBT and sex workers in Rwanda. So when we heard about that, we have been approached by one of the LGBT organizations to say that there is something going on in the parliament, they want to criminalize. We didn't even know that. As for the future of our country, we said that we can take that opportunity and advance that issue on high level. So that's how we started. When we started to advocate your challenges, we have to start with, we started by documenting ourselves, we started by meeting with different partners, building a coalition, having some support from other civil society organizations, and the main challenges we have got, it's as we are talking about media, when you start meeting, we started by organizing different campaigns, press conferences, and when we went to meet media, so many media, they published some stories and newsletters saying that those guys from HDI, they are homosexual, and others were saying, or calling on radio, you have to kill those people, you have to kill them, they are bringing some abnormal things in our country. And I remember once, was in 2011, it's just a small story, I have been invited on radio program talking about it was another advocacy work I was conducting for advocating for safe abortion in Rwanda. So when I went on radio, many people was calling me, oh, he's the one who was on radio, and I said yes. And another time they have been invited on TV, when after talking, I was debating with the speaker of the Catholic Church. He was in opposition. Then after that, I had was a friend of mine. She was like a girlfriend, but not yet was not yet declared as a girlfriend. But she immediately called me saying, "From now, don't call me again." don't talk with me because I can't tolerate with someone on TV talking about safe abortion. So it's I want to show you how media can make some impact and how it can destroy everything if you are not well equipped. And definitely I thought that she's joking, but she was not joking. We separated the media too. So, and when also in the first press conference you have got, the media was saying, no, we don't have homosexuals people in our country. And we said that we have them. We was just even some with some organization, MSM organization, and we said those are the LGBT organizations, they have organization. Then after the press conference, the media published all the photos in newsletter saying those are the people who are bringing some Western issues, Western culture in our country. So doing that advocacy, we started by breeding support in civil society. We met in different embassies. And what I want to say, you have to know strategy and you have to know the environment you are working with. Because when I started to meet with different embassies, like US embassy said that they want to come on board and advocate with us. And you said no, that was not. Because we don't want their support. We wanted that support, but we didn't want to be, to have some people are saying we are doing that because international organization, because of Western countries. We didn't accept that support. And I have been also invited by the country director of SIDA, Swedish International Development Agency, and he said that they have been in a meeting with the government and they said that there is something which is not good going on. And that, he said he wants to support with us, he wants to work with us. We said we want your support, but not official support, because we didn't want to be criticized that we are working with Western countries. Then we have got so many things. We were saying LGBT right is a health right. In a constitution, we say that there is an article saying right to health. So when we say that LGBT, we say MSM, if UNAIDS have documented it, WHO have documented that if you want to fight against HIV, you have to work with key populations. We could say to show that we are working, promoting LGBT rights, but through promotion of health sector in Rwanda. And another thing is, when I was on TV that time, talking on safe abortion, they asked me one question, very simple question, say, do you want to legalize abortion in Rwanda? And I said, no, we want to decriminalize abortion. So which is the same, but you have to know which one are you going to use in advocacy. Because if you say that on TV, immediately everyone will say that you are going to legalize abortion. Yeah, the solution we have, therefore we started by breeding support from everyone. We started by approaching different peoples, and we have been successful, especially on that issue of President signed a new penal code, which was repeat all the articles criminalizing LGBT. They removed all the penalties, which was mentioned. And also, when we before that the penal code published, the Parliament voted the penal code, which was a little bit criminalizing, and we sent position paper to the President. When we send position paper, immediately we have organized we call press conference to tell them that we have sent position paper to the head of state, and the position paper is saying that A to Z. And the purpose was, if you send a document to the President, you never know the secretary, the advisor, they cannot send that letter to the President. But if you went in the media, if you went on TV, if it is published everywhere, President will say, no, I have seen it in, for example, New Times is a daily newsletter in Rwanda. You can say, oh, I have seen that story saying that there is something, they have sent something in the government, in my office, where is it? So we wanted to use the media for everything we have been doing. We use the media. Yeah. So that's just a small brief about the advocacy work I have been working with, and if anyone want to have some discussion or just talk with me about it, I'm free to talk. And I have an opportunity to introduce the new speaker, the moderator. She's the executive director of Uganda Media Women's Association, and she's a development communication expert and has been involved in information and media work for over 20 years. And she has extensive expertise in the area of planning, development, implementing media and communication strategies, women and gender capacity building strategic plan. And she holds Masters in Women and Gender Studies with a Bachelor of Arts degree in Political Science and Sociology. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the next moderator, Ms. Margaret Sentamu Musagazi. Welcome.
Thank you very much.
So yeah, you have other panelists. I can call them to come. On front is Anita Sempa, the Foundation for Sustainable Development. Another one, Agora Florence Wanyango, Invisible Children. And Mugambe Hussein, Advocacy Through Film and Screening Uganda. George Polanche, B2 Communications Limited. Welcome.
Thank you very much for that kind introduction. And ladies and gentlemen, I would like to welcome you to this panel, which is going to deal with that important topic called the media, how important it is in our work that we do, and are we able to use the media as community mobilizers or as developmental workers? And to what extent should we use the media? And what kind of media are we talking about? So as already introduced, my name is Margaret Sentamu, and I have a wonderful panel of gender balanced, as you can see, and very, very critical in the work that they do. And my introduction to this, I know that the media can break and it can also unmake. Most of the development workers that we have come across tend to think that the media may not necessarily have to be used in the work that we do. And possibly if we chose to use the media, then we have to use that alternative media. We don't go mainstream. Possibly today, we may also want to tackle that topic today. So I want us to first have and give an opportunity to each one of these ladies and gentlemen to tell to us what kind of media they use in the work that they do, and how do they use it to promote their work. I would like to start with the gentleman from the other side, Gregory from B2 Communications, and I'll give you just 2 minutes. Thank you.
My name is Gregory Branch. I have a media production company here in Uganda called B Squared Communications. But I'm also here, I string report for CNN. I've been here for about 5 years. And I also report for Global Post, which is an online international news organization. So I would say I use pretty much all the major forms of media. I do radio, television, internet, and print. Global Post allows me to do a little bit of both. That's a little bit about me. I have a long resume. I've been in the business since 1991. I moved to Uganda by choice, not by assignment. I've been covering Africa for quite some time. And it's difficult as a journalist in the US, I'm from New York originally, to swoop into a country, cover a story, try and make sense of it, and then broadcast that story back to my home audience, which is something I'm sure we'll talk about. because audience specification is very important. I just found it's easier if I lived within the culture and I could better understand what I'm reporting and who I'm reporting on and what I'm talking about. So that's a little bit about me.
Thank you. Anita?
Of background on this organization and its founder. It was founded by a student like you, most of you here, and it was about seeing how development was being done. And she thought that a lot of funds were being wasted on running costs, but not being effectively used on the projects. So she decided that she forms Foundation for Sustainable Development as an organization which won't be like most of the funding organizations. So ours is working through students who we usually and fondly refer to as interns. And these interns are given a seed grant, which is so small compared to what you'd expect from big organizations. This is about $200 to $300. And then this money is used at the grassroots to show that it's not the big amounts of money, but it's the commitment of the communities and the interns that things are done. Well, we are rural, and as you can imagine, we don't have social media there. We don't have television, but mainly we are still using what most of the local people here may refer to as Echizindalo. Can anybody elaborate on that? Okay, this is somebody goes around with a megaphone on a bicycle and passes information around to the people. That's very effective, and we also use edutainment, educational entertainment. It's also very effective because then the people see themselves on the stage. It has been very effective. But, well, we also come to town sometimes, and we also network with people like most of you who use the social media. So ours is a concoction of types of media. We use the traditional, we also use the drums. It's a melange, and it has worked well for us. When we are dealing with our partners, like most of you here, other NGOs, we use the social media, and then when we are dealing with our communities on the grassroots level, we tend to use the other methods that I mentioned. The only electronic media that we can get effectively there, if at all, is the radio. And then this is also very selective because most of the stations won't reach the areas that we work with. I think that's a bit of a background.
Thank you, Anita. And now we're going to go to Florence, Invisible Children. You've been in the mainstream media, you've been in the social media. Please tell us how you managed to get there.
Well, as I've been introduced, my name is Florence Ogola, and I work with Invisible Children. And Invisible Children is an organization that focuses on ending the NRA war. And we do that through a four-part model that includes mobilization, media, recovery, and protection. And under the media, we mainly focus on spreading the story of the NRA atrocities in northern Uganda and continued atrocities in Central African Republic and the DRC. And under mobilization, we work with the youth, we mobilize the youth in the US and Canada. And through these groups, we're able to push for legislation, and we also push for action to end atrocities committed by the NRA, the continued atrocities in Central Africa and the DRC. And under recovery, we work in northern Uganda, where we're doing various programs to rebuild the ravaged northern Uganda, since the war has been there for over a decade. But now that it's moved to other regions, we are looking at recovery and how can the communities move away from that. And in Congo, we also work in protection areas. That means we send messages and talk to the people that are still in the LRA to come out of the bush and defect and come back to the community. So many of the forms of media that we use, being a media-based organization, we started with a simple film, and that was in 2003. And that was 3 young Americans came to Uganda, and they wanted to film what was going on in Sudan, and then they came to northern Uganda and actually found their story there. So that's how Invisible Children came into place. So we really value the media, because once they shot the first film, which was called Rough Cut, and they went back to the US and shared the story and showed the DVD to their friends, everyone was like, what can we do to help these people? So we really value the media. And so we work with radios when it comes to protection, like in Central African Republic, to sensitize the community, to accept the people who are defecting. We also work with radio in northern Uganda. We work with social media. That's where we share our films, and that's through Facebook, Twitter, and we use many forms of the media, I think.
Now, Mr. Ngambe, you work with an advocacy organization. Please tell us what kind of media you use to advance the advocacy of the work that you do.
Thank you, Madam. My name is Ngambe Keose. I'm working with AFSU. AFSU is a local organization here in advocacy. We use videos. When you use video, it's easy to share, it's easy to pass the message to the right people. When it comes to this forum, we met Alisa because of the video we use. When Alisa learned to our video on internet, we decided to communicate to us to see what we are doing. Today, I'm very glad to see that I've met here different people. My colleague there, Mark, with the same idea. One of my fellow panelists with the same idea. When I talk to other people, they say yes. Video, because I don't think when Alisa went back to America today, she can say, we have been with 2,000 people in the forum. Because of the video. What the video capture, you shoot, that's what they show. We found that people, they used to put down a lot of notes when they know that nobody can read 100 pages. When you send a document to Madame Margaret will just read 2 or 3 pages, you put aside. But when you send a video for 15 minutes to Madame Margaret, you manage to watch that video and come to know what you are telling to see, or what's caused, and Madame Margaret will send back a feedback and say, I'm interested, we are going to support this cause. That's why we encourage most of our partners to use video instead of going to documentation.
Thank you very much, Hussein. Now we need to get to, we are involved in development work. What is it that we have to look at before choosing what type of media that we have to use in our work? I know that Hussein has already gotten into that area, that video, it is visual, I don't know what, anybody can say it and whatever. But I wanted to first ask Florence, why did you choose social media, for example, and what uniqueness does it have?
Well, our choice for social media is mainly because we shoot films. Social media is a platform that you can easily share. When you upload it on YouTube and then you share it on Twitter and share it on Facebook, it's easier for the people we work with, which are the youth in the US, to view it easily and share it with friends. And not even that, because we've built grassroots support over time, and we've worked with personalities like Oprah Winfrey. We're sure that if we upload a video, like I'll give an example of Kony 2012. When we uploaded the Kony 2012 video, we actually wanted to have 500,000 views by the end of 2012, but in 2 days we had over 10 million views. And that's because we shared it on a platform like social media, and we had people like Oprah say, well, we need to end the LRM war, Kanye 2012, and everyone else went like, well, if Oprah Winfrey is supporting this and she has millions of followers, then she clicks on that and her followers can be able to also view the video. So that's a faster way of spreading like a film and getting people to watch it. But at the same time, it also depends on the audience that you're looking out for. And if we're looking at the youth, then social media is definitely the way to go.
Would you share with us some of the challenges that you have met when you are using any type of media that you have used as Invisible Children?
Well, one challenge, of course, with social media comes, there's always the positive side of it, and there's also the negative side of it. In that when one shares it and probably has viewed a video for just maybe it's a 15 minutes video, but then viewed the first 5 minutes of it, and then has created their own opinion about it and says, well, this is not true, this is not something that is happening, and shares it with friends, and then friends will always go like, yeah, and people will have that perception. With social media, people don't take time to kind of share, as much as they do share the views, but there's also that need of, if someone else I consider has a better view or is better placed, says this thing is not working, then I'll not take my time, I'll simply share it, and it's kind of a new form of activism where we feel that when there's a story shared and you like it, you have done something. It just doesn't end there by liking a video. You need to actually do something about it. So that's one big challenge we found, that people just like videos or share videos and they don't really, it ends there on social media.
Again, Florence, Invisible Children are in Uganda, in Africa. But I would want to know, what is it that stopped you from engaging much more the local media here? Because many people got to know about Invisible Children after Oprah Winfrey and the Americans, they invaded us with this social media business. So why didn't you have trust in over 250 radio stations in Uganda, the local newspapers about over 10 plus, and the TV stations? Just share with us, because we are here to learn.
Well, it's more about the audience. And as I've said, our focus mainly with the US audience and the youth in the US was to raise funds for our programs in Uganda. So what we were doing was mobilizing the youth in the US to actually raise funds to support what is the recovery work that we're doing in northern Uganda. And so we focused more on informing the communities in northern Uganda about what we were doing than the entire Uganda, which I would say is not a good thing, because we realized that yes, the youth in the US knew so much about the LRA as compared to the entire Uganda. And as much as we had talked to people in northern Uganda, we've done a bit of activism in northern Uganda and lobbied through the communities in northern Uganda. They're well informed because they're the affected community. But the rest of Uganda didn't know about it. And I wouldn't say that was majorly our fault, because this is something that happened in Uganda, and it's actually, Ugandans should have known about what was going on in the north. Because I've also met people here, and when I tell them I work in northern Uganda, they still ask me, is Joseph Kony in northern Uganda? So I feel it was not just the responsibility of Invisible Children to let people in Uganda know about what was happening in northern Uganda, and is continuing to happen in Central Africa and Congo. So ours was mainly what we wanted, and that was funds to protect the communities here. And so that's why we focused on the youth and sensitized them more about what was going on.
Thank you. Anita, you come from Chanamka, those areas of Masaka, a little bit deep down there. And you're telling us about this innovation that you are using as a form of media. My question is, why that form of media? And secondly, do we have to stop at that alternative media? Because if the work that we are doing is advocacy and to change the lives of people, do we have to just focus on alternatives where the policymakers are not looking? So what is it that we can learn, and maybe what is it that we can do more so that local communities, wherever we are working, we can also target the mainstream media so that the policymakers can influence our lives there?
Thank you, Margaret. When we are choosing a type of media to use, we've got to consider the target audience. Now, when we consider the people of Chanamkaka and beyond where I work, most of those people are peasant farmers. They are riddled with poverty. They don't own much. They don't have the grid going through their areas, so they don't have electricity. Now, if you made a program, an advocacy program that was targeting those people, say, let it be health or whatever, improvement, they won't get the message because they are not exposed to the type of media that you're using. But when you use the means, the rudimentary means of communication media, like the one I mentioned of megaphone going through the villages, it's, first of all, it's a very good tool for mobilization, and it reaches all corners of the village. It's very, very appropriate. Then you go to, when you think about the radio, yes, some of them may own some radios, but then still, it is something that you may think is small, but people in the rural areas can't even afford to buy battery cells. They can't afford to buy paraffin. You know, they can't afford to buy those basic things in life. So you've got to think about a way of getting a message to them, and it has to be the simple one that they can have access to. And like I mentioned before, the people in the rural areas also want to be entertained. So when you use drama, information dramatization, it's also very effective because, one, they are being entertained because entertainment is also very limited to them, and at the same time, they are learning. You see, when they see themselves on the stage, it's very interesting that, you know, we are even working with youth, primary school children, to talk about issues, serious issues of health and so on. We've had a group, a school called St. Mugaga. It's a school, or a primary school out there in Jessica. Now, those children were introduced to the Millennium Development Goals, and you'd be surprised how they improvised and acted out how their parents contract HIV/AIDS. They acted scenes of, you know, their fathers going to the bars and then, you know, getting involved with barmaids, and then they end up getting drunk and then getting HIV/AIDS and then returning back to their homes. And then another one was able to act, another group was able to act how poor people are sidelined. They acted a scene of going to a clinic, and then the poor ones are lining up, and then there comes a well-to-do lady and who didn't have to line up, and then, you know, she just went at the top of the queue. So even with children, you see, they are able to project what happens in the society. So if you're using them, that's a form of, you know, passing across information. And like I said, on one side, when we're working with our communities, that's what it is. But then we have to remember that we're also working with, appropriately, working with other government offices and other partners, where we have to use other forms of media. I think I better stop there now.
Thank you, Anita. Gregory and Hussein. Gregory works on reports for big international media houses out there on health issues. And Hussein also uses the video to capture those very important moments. Now I want to understand from Gregory. You're talking about health issues. What are these tactics that you use to ensure that the local communities, the vulnerable groups, the vulnerable members of society can give you their time and they readily give you that information?
In some cases, it's actually a bit unfair because I do work for these large media organizations. When I come into town and I say I'm doing a story for CNN, people generally want to talk because they want to be on CNN. So it's not as difficult in some cases as it might be for others. But I think if I could pull it back just a little bit, because I'm assuming it's people like me that advocacy organizations are looking to help them tell their stories. So I think the best advice that I can give you is, what am I looking for if you are having an organization like Invisible Children or any of these other organizations? What would you be able to do to get me to cover your story and give you that large platform that you want? And I can also address the local issues too. First and foremost, one of the universal things about media is that people engage media because they want to hear a story. And in many cases, it's great to have the facts and the figures, particularly when it comes to healthcare, because healthcare, for lack of a better way of saying it, is pretty boring to most people. People don't want to think about their own mortality. They don't want to think about being sick or dying, or people that they know being sick or dying. So they generally tend not to pay a lot of attention to health reporting, and I have a hard time getting those stories on the air. But if you could give me a story, a poignant story about an individual that I can relate to, and that my viewers, regardless of where they are, be they in New York, or Kampala, or Beijing, we can all relate to a human story. And if what you're telling me, for instance, with Invisible Children, that was a story of a young man part of it was the story of a young man who was affected by Kony's war. What got everybody interested was his story. We couldn't think about the larger issue of who's Kony and where's Uganda and what this war is about. But we could relate to this young man because everybody has a young person in their family who would think and act and talk like that particular individual. So that's one way of being able to engage me. Another thing that's really important, I find, for advocacy organizations is you should know who you're talking to when you engage the media. Depending on what you want. If you are looking to talk to folks in her area, I'm not the person to call because what I do is not going to reach those people. And I think I need to make that perfectly clear. It's very important to know who your target audience is and what your message is. Your message needs to be clear, it needs to be concise, it needs to be as non-controversial as possible, and you shouldn't engage in any fear-mongering. Also, if you're talking about radio or social media, know who your audience is, who are you targeting, who do you want to get that messaging to, and have them respond back to you. I think that's particularly important. When it comes to engaging people here, in order to be able to cover a story, I find it's best to work with people that are in the community as well. I mean, people like me, journalists, we actually really depend on you guys, on advocacy groups, to help us with the story. Ultimately, we're going to tell the story that we see, but you have the ability to be able to introduce us to potential characters, people who we call them characters. It may not be the best term to use, but in television, it's the person that I think my viewers are going to relate to the most. Now, as I said before, I moved to Uganda because I didn't like flying in to cover a story and then running back home and editing it and showing it to that particular audience. I wanted to be here so I can engage Ugandans and find out more about who these characters are and what they have to say. And that's where you come in as an advocacy group. You are our eyes and ears on the ground, and if you engage us and we like the story, be responsible, introduce us to people who can articulate themselves, and that you have to do the initial homework, which is finding the person who tells or who has the most interesting story to tell. The person whose story is going to be able to transcend borders of language or culture or race or demographics or even regions of the planet. I think I'll stop.
Hussein, you deal in video. Margaret Centum is an executive director. Our organization is an advocacy organization doing that work on behalf of the beneficiaries who are vulnerable. Tell us a story whereby you come with a video, you're trying to do video filming, but the difference that that video will make is only when you have stories from the people who have been affected by a calamity, a person who has been defiled. What are these tactics that you use to let them give you the time and talk to you so that they can tell their stories, the deep, deep stories?
Thank you, Madam. Video advocacy, before you go to the ground, you first create a relationship with the local leaders. So because most of the time, people in the community, those grassroots people, they are so violent. You have to first create a friendship with them, show them that you are part of them, you know their problem. When you create that friendship, they will sit down and tell you what's exactly taking place on the ground. So, before you take that story, you have to first get to know, is it right or it's not right? Because you may present or upload a video with false story. That means the organization will get a negative image from the international and the national level. So, before you get to that story finally, you have to consult the leaders. After that the story, you have to go and present that story to the local leaders. So they have first look through, is it true what you are going to report? If it's true, because you are helping the needy to get to know their problem from the ground. So you don't edit. When you edit that story, that means you are putting something which is not from the real person who are from that story. You upload the video. You upload the video when you are targeting the people who can come and support that cause. So you don't target people in Chanamkaka because they don't have access to like TV stations. They don't have access to internet so that they can watch that video. So when you upload, Margaret, if you have access to internet and you have close relations with all invisible children, you will come to know that there's other new video from invisible children. You take your time to watch that video. If you don't take your time, your colleague will let you know that there is a video about this. You take time to watch. If you are interested in support that cause, you communicate to the invisible children about the video and what you can do, or what message do you want to pass to that problem. So after feeling what's neglected by the policymakers or other big organizations, and we want to break the monotony, because like grassroots organizations, they don't have a chance to be heard by other donors. If these grassroots organizations, they take their video to YouTube and other social media networks, they will have a chance to see their work, what they are doing on the ground. If those donors are interested, they will come up and fund their causes.
Thank you very much. But I really wanted to find out how the local communities who are normally media shy can be made to become media. Yes, that's what I was trying to look at, because not many of the vulnerable people would want to talk. Maybe progressively we are getting there, but how do you make those people talk? But I think time is not on our side. I wanted us to have maybe the last word. Do you have any regrets working with the media, and what is it that you can tell the rest of the people out there, how they can partner with you, and leave it at a positive note?
With regard, well, just to touch a little bit on your concern, about how do you get average people to want to engage in the media. I'll speak to that very briefly, and then we can engage that more after. I think that's anywhere. It's not just in Uganda, it's everywhere around the world. And people that are in pain generally don't want to talk about being in pain. And I think something that Hussein said is very important, and it's about becoming credible to the person whose story you're telling. And in many cases, that means you have to spend time with an individual. It's about trust, and you have to develop a relationship with that person so that they can trust you, because as Hussein said, they may not be able to see what you do with their story. So they're trusting that you'll do right by them, that you'll actually give them a voice. And so a lot of it is just being honest as to what you're looking for in what you're reporting, and being upfront about what your abilities are and what they're not, and preparing somebody for the inevitable backlash of what media can do. Well, working with me, you can find me. I have a website. It's my name, GregoryBranch.com. I actually do media training for organizations here in Uganda, both governmental and non-governmental. I've done several of them. Part of my work is also helping to make people media savvy. People who are afraid to talk to camera or afraid to be on the radio, I help to train them so that they can do so. And we help to craft messages and also make sure that message gets out there. So that's the easiest way to reach me.
We can work together with any organization in information dramatization, because we've become very good at that, and you know it's very effective with the grassroots level of communities. So if you're in for information dramatization, please, we are here to work with you. And please, like my colleague here said, you've got to find the appropriate media for the information that you want to put across, because some of the information you may want to appear on CNN, yet your information is just good for radio or local television. Thank you.
Yeah, well, any regrets working with the media? No, because I feel the media has a lot of power to change things in the world, and it also has the power to empower people, and it also has that power to connect people, because it's through stories that you get to connect people from one part of the world to the other part of the world. So I don't regret working with the media at all. And then when it comes to issues of partnering, well, Invisible Children, when it comes to issues of partnering, we only work in areas of maybe protection, and we partner with organizations that are on ground working with the NRA, like people who've been affected by the NRA. But we also do a bit of training on how you can shoot a film and make sure that you have a film that is compelling and can push people to want to do something about it. So if somebody wants to connect with the Invisible Children, then yeah, you can probably get in touch with me, or you can visit our website on www.invisiblechildren.com.
Same. What lives have you impacted on through your video work throughout these years, and how can the rest of the people partner with you?
So far we have a lot of impacts we have done since we came into existence. Like we have helped so many people to create their own jobs, whereby we used to tell our local people that don't expect any donor or funder to come and dump the money into your project. You are the first person to fund your own project, instead of waiting for somebody from USA to come and start funding your own project. So we train the local community to start doing small things with material they have access to. Like you have women at Kome Island, they're doing paper beads. They go to Nassau Road. I think most of Uganda, they know Nassau Road. There's a lot of wasted papers. They turn into those wasted paper into paper beads. I see Madrid, where's Madrid? Madrid have an example of that paper beads. Madrid, Yeah, they are doing that one. So whenever they sell that thing, they receive income and they boost their income. So another thing, when we go to the community, we usually tell them AFSU doesn't support any other partner. But what we do, we come together and do the project. I used to tell people that, for example, everybody can clap. Margaret, can you clap with one hand? So, you can clap when you're using two hands, but you can't clap when you're using one hand. That means, when AFSU comes to you, we can do the filling at a minimum cost or without any cost, because we have the gadgets to support the local community, those that peace and the grassroots people. I can't come and do the filling for free for UNICEF, for USAID, but I can come and do the film for GlobeMed. Because GlobeMed, it's still young, but they have a vision to help so many less advantaged community. So when they say, AFSU, you come and we have transport, we want to go to Chanamkaga. There is a problem here in Chanamkaga. So AFSU just go, we have our van there, bring your gadgets and go. We just park immediately. When you have an appointment with us, that Monday we are going. As I told Lisa that they give me 3 days for GlobeMed because I have to come and attend it. So whenever you want to partner with us, just give us a call to just tell us we are going to transport you and your video man to the ground so that you can fill in the cause. We don't charge. Maybe if we need it, we don't need tips. We use cards. After filling, we can help you to upload to the internet so that you can pass your cause to the world. When any intern come across your video and get interested, maybe can come and say, let us go and support and we'll share our skills with these people in Chanamkaga to solve this problem for the community. I know some interns, they force them to pay some little fee for internship, but in AFSU, we don't. And we give them accommodation, we give them transport. After being so, they can say, okay, we are going back, but let us give this small thing to AFSU so that they can continue supporting what? The community. That's the way you can partner with us. Our website, we have two websites because we have a challenge. We are doing advocacy. We are lobbying for the community. We are not implementers. So most of the donors, whenever they come, they say, we are going to support this, but we have to set up a website for this project. So we have different projects, we have different websites. So when you visit those websites, don't say, which correct website for AFSU? Because we have www.afsu.org, we have www.ngariproject.org, and other so many websites.
Thank you so much, Hussein. I can see there is a lot of resource out here. And in Uganda, media is a very important tool for development, but most importantly, you have to say that media in Uganda is very, very expensive. You cannot go to the mainstream media and you do not pay. But when I listen to these guys here and that they are going to give us free services, you guys in Uganda, I think we are very lucky. So I think at this point, maybe we can give like 10 minutes for some questions from the colleagues out there.
Yeah, thank you. My name is December. I work for Help Alert Uganda. I just have one concern that I need to put forward, especially to the gentleman on my right side. We have seen in most of the autocratic communities where democracy is little practice. Media has been always a center of conflict. You find that media has helped cause even trouble. For instance, in 1994, in Rwanda, You remember the Rwanda genocide. Media participated critically well. Two, in Uganda, for instance, in the last couple of months, we have had houses for media closed. I was wondering how CNN has been surviving this. How did you survive? Are you pro one side of, I don't want to go to politics. I'm trying to look at how have you been surviving? You have been in so many countries, Afghanistan, even in South Africa where apartheid was, but you didn't face challenges, unlike the local media. Two, how have you worked to ensure that you help the upcoming media houses so that they don't face those kind of difficulties?
I can't speak for CNN specifically as to how, but I can tell you this. It depends on what story I pitch, how passionate I am about that story, and how much influence I have with my editor as to whether or not the story will actually appear. With regards to the closing of media houses in Uganda, because I am an international journalist and I have a different passport, the regulations that I have are a little bit different. If my reporting is not appreciated by the country that I'm residing in, my work visa can be revoked. It doesn't mean that I'm going to do something that is in line with any particular government or non-government agency, but I generally stand behind the fact that I'm reporting the facts. And if the facts are not disputable, then I don't have any fear. It's just best to be truthful and to be honest. Since I've been in Uganda, we had a seminar called OSJ. This was in 2009. It stands for Open Source Journalism. If there's a little bit of time, I'll tell you a quick story. I was covering we talked a bit about LGBT issues earlier. I was covering the anti-homosexuality bill here in Uganda. And I interviewed some Ugandan homosexuals for, not for CNN, this was for Global Post. And there was a bit of a discussion between myself and the editors as to how I would send the material back to the state so it could be edited. I didn't want to send the material out before it had been changed in some way to hide the faces of the people that I was interviewing, because obviously if they would be outed by me, which means people could attack them. There could be reprisals. To make a long story short, I ended up having to send the tapes, I was using tape at the time, the raw footage with the faces being shown to Kenya, and it was supposed to be edited in Kenya and then sent to the US for air. Unfortunately, after about a week, I didn't hear anything from my colleague in Kenya as to whether or not the tapes were received. I sent them via DHL. I went back to DHL to find out what happened to my tapes. And within 3 days, I found out the tapes had been confiscated by the Kenyan government. At least that's what DHL said. So I panicked, because as a journalist, I promised these young people that I would keep them safe in exchange for their story to me. So what I had to do was I talked to all of the journalists here in Uganda, both international and domestic, and said, please interview these people and saturate your coverage with their faces. Because now, if you make them famous, perhaps they're less likely to be attacked because people will know who they are. That may help. In conclusion, we created a conference called Open Source Journalism, where we connected with technology folks, and we were able to show Ugandan journalists how to use technology to encrypt a lot of their reporting so that it can't be seized by government or other organizations. So you can get the truth out to a place where it can actually flourish. And we do that once a year. We've done that also at something called Tech Fest. We did that with Orange last year. So every year we do it, so look out for it here in Kampala. And it's free.
I think the last question will come from a lady seated there.
So my question is, media seems to be a very good, useful tool for our civil society institutions, for advocacy work, for fundraising, for visibility, everything. But there seems to be a problem with the media. You could see that after around 60 to 70% of the civil society institutions shy away from media. And the question is, with the information that comes out of the media, because there seems to be a difference in terms of real information and then what is given out. Where is the problem? How do we build confidence in media? Is it the problem with the source of the information from the institution or the person working with the community? One short example, I attended one training and then I was told, please think like a journalist. I was told to think like a journalist each time. But I'm a program manager, I can't think like a journalist. So I need to employ a journalist services to do my work. But the problem is, I know that the journalists, the messages that the journalists will pass out is different from my message. So this is the question. Yeah.
Just very quickly, all information is subjective, meaning that if I tell you something, if I'm speaking now to this crowd, and everybody's going to interpret what I say, even though we're speaking the same language, in a different way, because you bring your personality and your experiences to what it is I'm saying. So that's sort of one way of helping to explain the fact that different people hear different things. It's just the nature of humanity. We're going to hear what we want to hear. One of the things I'll say about what it sounds like you're saying is sort of erroneous reporting or something that doesn't match with what you told the media. The media, people that work within the media work on a deadline, and this is an issue that's come up before, particularly like, let's say, the Ministry of Health. You have to get to know not just the individual, but also the schedule under which they work, and they have to respect you and what you're doing as well. So for instance, I'll give you an example. I was working on a story for Global Post. I called the Ministry of Health. I needed to have an answer about Ebola, and I told them I have a half hour before I have to file a report. Can you get back to me as quickly as possible? And I was brushed off, and they said, we'll get back to you when we can. They got back to me the next day. Well, by then I had already filed a report because I had a deadline. So I couldn't get that information into my report because they didn't call me back when I asked them to call me back. So it's on both sides of the fence, I would argue. And that's something that, hopefully you guys will have an opportunity to do, is actually engage in media houses, find out how they work, and then create a partnership with the media organization or house that you want to work with so that you can begin to understand each other and what's necessary to get your message out.
I think it's all depends. Managed to get a man from his 3 wives, but I don't know why they didn't say how this man left his 3 wives for this girl. So it depends on who you want to please or who your audience is. Thank you.
And on the part of you being an organization and when you want to use the media and the information is distorted, what I'd like to say is you can do it as an organization. You don't have to rely on mainstream media. You don't have to rely on journalists to send out your message. There is social media now. While there's always this joke that a friend once told me, Florence, you're a journalist, but these days on social media, while you're busy saying somebody allegedly did this, there's someone who's saying, I'm actually seeing this and this person doing this, and uploads the photo or anything or the video on Facebook. Look at the uprisings that have taken place in the Middle East. These are people who literally recorded and shared the information. So you can do it yourself. So probably when someone was telling you to think like a journalist, what they meant was how you package that information that you want to share out there. It should be compelling. It should be able to get someone connected to your story from the word go. It should be able to make someone want to do something about what you have told them.
On my side, the problem and challenge with advocacy using the video. We, the grassroots organization, we are not, we lack transparency. So we don't want to put what we are doing to the public. So it takes some time to distort the information of what we want to be uploaded on the social media networks. That may be the problem. That's the problem.
So as I thank my panel here, I would like to make a bit of conclusion here that the media is a very important tool in development. It can mobilize, it can set agenda, it could be used for advocacy, it can do a lot of things. However, for us who are working at the grassroots level, we need to understand and appreciate how the media works. We actually need to have those skills of engaging the media. For example, in most of our grassroots organizations, we do not have communications officers. So as a recommendation for this forum, maybe our organizations could start thinking of having a communications officer in our organizations. So on that note, I'd like to thank whoever gave me this job to the honor of moderating this session. It has been nice, and thank you very much for entrusting me.
So I just want to introduce this next session that we have. It's sort of a little different format than what we've been doing. This next session, we're going to be having roundtable discussions. So just first, all of our students are going to be heading out this door. We're going to have two groups, and we'll discuss those groups here in a second. All of our partners and supporters will be attending different roundtable discussions right outside of the tables on the terrace. And these discussions will be covering sustainable agriculture, girls' education, and community health worker programs. For girls' education, we have Irene Uwa. She's the education coordinator at the Walla Community Alliance. Irene. For sustainable agriculture, we have Fatima Nalikwabo from eCode Action Network. And for community health worker programs, we have Andrew Lopez, who's right here, from Hope Through Health. So partners and supporters, please choose two of those roundtable discussions that you would take part in. Moderators and facilitators, I ask you to keep your discussions 20 minutes apiece, and make sure to rotate so that everyone can hear from different perspectives. And finally, we'll reconvene right here at 4 o'clock. Thanks.
So you know I've been on Grow and been hanging out with our partner, and the first few days I was just sort of like, just kind of hanging out, like going to the offices and stuff, and just essentially immersed in society. And then and then Monday and Tuesday I got to go to the field and see. Part of our project is supporting mothers who are HIV/AIDS positive to make sure that who are pregnant to make sure that kids don't get HIV.
Our role is really establishing what GlobeMed is meaning in this community.
Yeah, I think that's a question that I've asked myself a lot too, especially not being affiliated with a chapter. What exactly does GlobeMed give every partner organization besides financial and human capital? And I think, I don't know, hopefully that's something that it's got answered to some extent so far, and that hopefully
partners that the Ashley from Single Family Foundation was using a lot. And I know I've heard it been used at like different GlobeMed events, but yeah, I think I'd like to think about that more as we start this new partnership of ours.
Well, you also talked about kind of creating change. And the one thing that I thought was interesting that I don't know if they brought up was that they phase out after like a certain amount of time, and then the community takes over, which I think is a really interesting way to kind of develop. And the other NGOs around it, it has outreaches and like different areas that they work in, but no real like community takeover, I guess. What it was. That's what I was going to identify those who are the most vulnerable and the most poor. And from those, he was talking about women like trained in empowerment and like how to discuss what issues they feel are like the most prominent in their community. And then from that group of women, I think 2 are chosen to join a cluster to address certain needs of the community. And then from that cluster, like 2 more women are chosen again to be put into the federation.
And that's what they do, like the
community structure where the community is really overseeing all of the issues within that area. So one part that he was giving an example of was domestic violence and like the women who are being domestically abused in the situation, and then they diffuse the information about like abusive relationships and everything to the community in a way that causes the entire
discussion. So now the discussion is open to everyone. We can share ideas, what are the barriers and what have we all done for this barrier So if anyone has
So if I say 3 play, everybody's going to start to do the tap, 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 tap. 3 play. Okay, very good. All right, my first time in East Africa, it's good to know that. Any other, yeah, so I'm from Kenya, speak a little louder.
I'm with our organization. We work basically with the psychosocial support group, people who are living positively with HIV/AIDS. And our initiative came when we heard that we have a lack of information in the community. So we came up with an initiative we called Clever Patients. So Clever Patients are people who are living positively, selected from different villages or different locations, being trained on how to take care of others, or be in one level with the community health workers and community health providers in the hospitals, so that they can be able to submit
Thank you very much. I'm here to speak about our organization. It is an association for women working in the media, founded 30 years ago. And we came together to use our skills in association with other people to promote the women's cause in this country. Because we felt that women in this country were being sidelined, not only in the media, but in all developmental sectors. So we've been around for about 30 years, and our strength lies in the fact that we know how to use the media strategically. We can develop communication strategies, we can develop media strategies, we can teach or train people to use the media more strategically. We have been involved in a number of projects, including training our own members who come from the different media houses in thematic areas, specialized areas, like policy analysis, community mobilization, advocacy, and a whole lot of themes. We are very good in community mobilization because we do not only target our members in the media, but we also target local communities, whereby we've been working in several districts, trying to raise awareness on social issues, rights about women, rights for children and the youth, and also how local communities can actively participate and benefit from government programs and policies. They have also been trained in monitoring public services. For example, the government programs like the NADS, this is to do with the funds that go to the districts and sub-counties. They are also involved in monitoring how the funds that are going to the district for purposes of schools, the universal primary education, and they have been able to monitor how the schools have been built and how those funds have been utilized. We have projects relating to campaigns on early teenage pregnancies, campaigns on how the local population can actively participate in government programs. For example, we have been very much been involved in raising awareness on how the people of this country can actively participate in choosing their leaders, whereby we have been giving them information on elections, on civic education, so that they can choose, or they can select, or they can stay away from elections from an informed point of view. We have been involved in training people in rights-based approach, in fighting domestic violence, in mass media use, and using the media as an advocacy tool. We have also been involved in organizing national events. For example, most recently, like a month ago, the government of Uganda decided to close media houses, 4 of them, but it was Uganda Media Women's Association which saw the need to mobilize the media and speak with government and impress upon them how important to have alternative views or dissenting views in the media. So we had a dialogue with the Minister of Information, and a lot of media houses were represented in that dialogue. So we get involved in national dialogues, and we try as much as possible to act as an activist for media freedoms in this country, but also most importantly, to find space for the women in this country to speak out. And that is why we came up with 2 media houses. You can call them media houses. For example, we have a radio station called the Mama FM. This one was founded in 2001, and it has been there for about 12 years. We also have a newspaper called The Other Voice, and the main reason for these 2 media outlets is to bring or to provide a platform for self-expression for the voices that are not able to be heard in the mainstream media. Like we already said, in Uganda, media is very expensive. If you have to appear in the newspapers or radio station, most often you have to pay some money. So Mama FM and The Other Voice provides an alternative for voices that are not usually heard in the mainstream media. And we are very good at developing content on social issues or developmental issues for publishing on the radio or in the newspapers. So we are running that community radio, and we use, as much as possible, participatory approaches, whereby we involve the communities right from the point of designing a project, of at that time when we are identifying a problem, we do community analysis with them, and then we come up with the strategies and find out how the project can be implemented. And along the way, the project beneficiaries get involved in implementing and also evaluating and monitoring of this particular project. We are located not very far from here, like 3 minutes drive, but we also have contact places in the districts where we are operating. We are networking with women organizations in this country, but also, most importantly, with media associations in this country, because we believe you cannot work alone and you need to work with a number of stakeholders if you have to push your agenda where you want it to go. So, we are very happy to have been invited to this forum, and we look forward to work with whoever is interested, because we have already identified a number of organizations that we can work with. The fact that we are representing that majority voice, which is not, however, heard in the mainstream media. That is the women and other marginalized groups. Because for us, we believe so much in diversity and for development. We wouldn't want to see only one gender going across and only one ethnicity going and leaving behind the rest of the people. So, we are a membership organization, but translated into a non-government organization in 1997, and ever since then, we've been working for the promotion and advancement of not only women's rights, but the rights of those groups that are marginalized and sidelined in our country called Uganda. Thank you very much.
Opportunities to collaborate and learn from one another. We have Harriet Adam with Resilient Africa Network.
Everybody, I'll just build on to what my colleague shared about Resilient Africa Network as we look forward to collaboration with each one of you and partnership with each one of you. The key message from the Chief of Party is Resilient Africa cannot exist as an island. We cannot do it alone. We are going to do it with you, and we are all going to achieve. So at Resilient Africa, we decided to define the word resilience for easy understanding and so that we are all on the same page. So we define resilience as the capacity of people and systems to mitigate, adapt to, recover, and learn from shocks and stresses in a manner that reduces vulnerability and increases well-being. Because as the name goes, we are out to work together with you on disasters. Those are the shocks and stresses that we are referring to in the definition, including landslides, including floods, including HIV and AIDS, urbanization, conflict, speak about it. So we also would like to address to you why RAN, why Resilient Africa, why do we need to partner, why do you need to come along with us in the fight. And we present it in the fact that Africa has many development challenges, and these are presenting themselves in shocks and stresses. I'm sure each one of us has heard or read about in the media and had a chance to look at how households and communities at all levels are affected by shocks and stresses. And these shocks and stresses come in when the communities are not readily prepared to to attend to them or to be able to bounce back to normality. Then secondly, households and communities need strategies to promote resilience to these shocks and emerge stronger. This is the bouncing back that we are talking about. We are like, for example, in Uganda, we are always aware that there are landslides in Bududa, in the eastern part of Uganda. But the rains come and we do nothing. You know, the people remain at the shores of the mountains, at the shores of these hills, and landslides get them there and they die massively, and they're not able to bounce back to normality. So we want to bridge the gap with innovations. Innovations that my colleagues spoke about earlier in the morning. The many solutions attempted have been from outside Africa, but now we are here for more homegrown solutions. In that particular case, I'm happy to inform each one of you that we shall have a lab, an incubation lab for the innovations, and this will be in Kololo, just above the airstrip, the famous airstrip, where we shall identify, incubate, and scale up these innovations before we can roll them out to the communities for their benefit. We are part of the Higher Education Solutions Network, and the role of the higher education institutions will be to mainly contribute more to building of the resilient societies, because this is where we shall harness the innovations from. The potential of students and faculty members, including researchers, to provide innovative solutions to resilience challenges should not be underestimated, just like my colleague indicated early in the morning today. However, there is a lack of linkage between the universities and the communities. So we need to stress this. That is why Resilient Africa is getting on board to bridge the gap between the universities, between the researchers, and the community.
Opportunities to collaborate and learn from one another. We have Harriet Adam with Resilient Africa Network.
Everybody, I'll just build on to what my colleague shared about Resilient Africa Network. As we look forward to collaboration with each one of you and partnership with each one of you. The key message from the Chief of Party is Resilient Africa cannot exist as an island. We cannot do it alone. We are going to do it with you, and we are all going to achieve. So at Resilient Africa, we decided to define the word resilience for easy understanding and so that we are all on the same page. So we define resilience as the capacity of people and systems to mitigate, adapt to, recover, and learn from shocks and stresses in a manner that reduces vulnerability and increases well-being. Because as the name goes, we are out to work together with you on disasters. Those are the shocks and stresses that we are referring to in the definition, including landslides, including floods, including HIV and AIDS, urbanization, conflict, speak about it. So we also would like to address to you why RAD, why Resilient Africa, why do we need to partner, why do you need to come along with us in the fight. And we present it in the fact that Africa has many development challenges, and these are presenting themselves in shocks and stresses. I'm sure each one of us has heard or read about in the media and had a chance to look at how households and communities at all levels are affected by shocks and stresses. And these shocks and stresses come in when the communities are not readily prepared to attend to them or to be able to bounce back to normality. Then secondly, households and communities need strategies to promote resilience to these shocks and emerge stronger. This is the bouncing back that we are talking about. We are like, for example, in Uganda, we are always aware that there are landslides in Bududa, in the eastern part of Uganda. But the rains come and we do nothing. You know, the people remain at the shores of the mountains, at the shores of these hills, and landslides get them there, and they die massively, and they're not able to bounce back to normality. So we want to bridge the gap with innovations. Innovations that my colleagues spoke about earlier in the morning. The many solutions attempted have been from outside Africa, but now we are here for more homegrown solutions. In that particular case, I'm happy to inform each one of you that we shall have a lab, an incubation lab for the innovations, and this will be in Kololo, just above the airstrip, the famous airstrip, where we shall identify, incubate, and scale up these innovations before we can roll them out to the communities for their benefit. We are part of the Higher Education Solutions Network, and the role of the higher education institutions will be to mainly contribute more to building of the resilient societies, because this is where we shall harness the innovations from. The potential of students and faculty members, including researchers, to provide innovative solutions to resilience challenges should not be underestimated, just like my colleague indicated early in the morning today. However, there is a lack of linkage between the universities and the communities. So we need to stress this. That is why Resilient Africa is getting on board to bridge the gap between the universities, between the researchers, and the community. About 20 African universities in 16 African countries, and we will be out there to provide innovative solutions to resilience. And RAN has established 4 regional resilience innovation labs, one in Eastern Africa, the one I have informed you about, that will be led by Makerere University, and the other in West Africa, that is UHAS, University of Health and Allied Sciences in Ghana. Then the other in the Horn of Africa, that is in Jima University, and Southern Africa in the University of Pretoria. Each of these will engage 4 additional universities to form a strong university partnership for innovations. That will total up to the 16 African universities. That is just to show you how the network will be set up. We have Resilient Africa, the Secretariat in Makerere University, with its RI lab, that is the Resilience Innovation Lab in Uganda, with 4 other universities, one of which is Gulu University on board. Then we have a partner, Stanford University, up there. Then we have Tulane. Tulane University is well known for disaster resilience, so we are collaborating directly with the Disaster Resilience Leadership Academy in Tulane University. Then we have Center for CSIS, Center for Scientific Science and International Studies, which is also part and parcel of our partnership. And then the South African lab with the 4 RI labs, the one in Ethiopia and then the other in Ghana. And this all is funded by USAID, and then we co-opt the development partners where each one of us could fit in. That is just the same. The other that was challenging me, Center for Strategic and International Studies. Sorry about that. So our vision is resilient African communities through innovative solutions. And the mission is to strengthen resilience in Africa through university-led local innovative solutions using evidence-based approaches. Those are our objectives. I have shared a small flyer that has that. Maybe you can internalize that later on outside here. Those are some of our strategies. They are also highlighted. Because of time, I will not go through each one of them, but those are the strategies that we are out to make use of to benefit the communities that are faced with these shocks and stresses. On building on the existing network, that is what I started with, we acknowledge that there are many other partners working on building resilience, and it's been a very big learning opportunity here. I must acknowledge that. And RAN will only build on existing resilience frameworks and learn from other approaches. We shall not stand as an entity, but we shall build on what is existent. We shall build on what GlobeMed has already put in place. We shall build on what other development partners have put in place so that together we can achieve. That is an example of our target communities in Eastern Africa, where Makerere University is the lead. We shall be in the Elgon region in Eastern Uganda, that is Bududa and Manafa districts. The shocks and stresses there include recurrent landslides due to heavy rains, and this is repeated, as I have already said, and we've registered loss of lives, yet this can be predictable. Then in northern Uganda, in the Acholi region and the Lango region, there are two communities there affected by the 20-year civil war that ended about 10 years ago. We want to address the question, why is recovery slow? Why are they not able to bounce back to almost normality after the insurgency? Then in the Great Teso region in Uganda, where I come from, Katakwi, Soroti and Kumi, we always experience a lot of extensive floods there during the rainy season, and we would like to see how best we can address that in reference to resilience. In the Albertine region in Uganda, including Hoima, Kasese, where we were during the floods, Arua and Zongo districts, the epidemics of floods and landslides, the hybrid disasters that are predictable but lead to repeated loss of property, let alone the lives and displacements and all the issues that come along with that. Then in North Kivu, that is South Kivu in DRC, that's a lab also under the Makerere University lab. We want to address the issue of why the chronic conflict and gender-based violence. That is a very interesting area, and I urge all of you to get on board. Feel free to visit our webpage, feel free to search us out so that you can follow and we can together build resilience in these communities. What can development partners, what should you expect from us? We shall have our data-driven priorities for innovation. We shall have the innovations tested with evidence that they are beneficial to the communities. We shall also have strong university, community, and private sector partnership innovations with demonstrable impact to the communities that are faced with these stresses. And how we shall partner with you to echo my voice to my earlier colleagues and the previous speakers. We would love you to appreciate that there's a problem in the community.
My name is Vivian Rutamengwa. Joe, do you want to go up the mic and introduce yourself?
Yeah, I'm Joseph Scarpelli.
And we're Global Health Core Fellows, as Marcus said. So what that means is we belong to a community, we belong to a network of emerging leaders that basically believe that health is a human right. We are all public health professionals that are placed in a placement in a public health organization for a year. Our placement site matches our professional background. So Joe and I are both MPHers, and the role that we play now is we work as policy support officers in a USAID-funded, MSH-implemented project titled Strides for Family Health. Strides for Family Health works in Western Uganda. It's a maternal and child health program, so it works to decrease maternal mortality, increase child survival. Right at the beginning of our fellowship, on the first day of our placement, I remember we were having a meeting with one of the higher-ups at the head office here in Bugolobi. And she said to us, this year I want you guys to work on sustainability of the project. It was exciting initially. Joe and I were both quite pensive with being placed in an international big organization, knowing how notoriously unsustainable they are. So when she said that, we're like, okay, cool. So these guys are thinking about sustainability, that's a good thing. And then we realized that this project closes in January 2014. So she wanted us to turn a $44 million project to being sustainable within 10 months. So we were like, oh, okay. So anyway, we're just going to present quickly about how we've gone about doing this.
Thanks, Vivian. Next slide, please, Lisa. So, we're going to talk about what we call VHTs here in Uganda. Strides utilizes these VHTs in the communities to do our work. And not all of you here are living in Uganda, not everyone here is Ugandan, so I first should describe VHTs, village health team members. The global equivalent is a CHW, or the community health worker. And in Uganda, they come in teams of around 5, and they're attached to a health facility in the village. They come from the village, and each VHT member serves about 25 households on average. They do many things. They do community education, they do outreaches, health talks, they help community members remain adherent in their drug treatments. Strides over the past 4.5 years has trained over 8,000 VHTs throughout Uganda. And so, you see them here doing a lot of different activities. They're immunizing children, they're giving health talks, they're doing nutrition demonstrations as well. So that's the VHT. They're also contracted by other implementing partners, as well as the health facilities themselves. So it's a basic background on what a VHT is. Next slide, please. Now, we're here today to talk about sustainability, and as Vivian mentioned, as of January 2014, in 5 short months, Strides will be no longer. And when Strides leaves, along with its very large budget, my question is, what will happen to these 8,000 community members who are doing really good work? So actually I want to pose a question to the students here, the GlobeMed students from around the country. You've been working here in East Africa for a few weeks or months. What ideas can you think of off the bat, just simple ideas that we could use to make these community members functional after Strides pulls out? So I want to show 1 or 2 examples off the top of your heads. What are some strategies you can think of that we should have been doing or should do now to keep them functional after we leave? Don't be shy.
Leader on each team that you train specifically, all the values you want from your organization, from Strides, everything they need, and creating a forum of information for them so they can be the leaders within their health team. So when their health team members go out to the communities and they go and they have a conflict or an issue, they can go back to their team leader who has that forum of information or guidebook so they can teach what they've learned through Strides and continue it out into the community.
That's great, actually. So we're kind of providing them tools they can continue to use even after we're not presently there in person. Very, very good. So another example? Yes, thank you.
Find other grassroots organizations in the area that they can partner with so that it's more sustainable and more local, I guess.
Good, yeah. So once our big project leaves, maybe there are other small projects in the area that can help fill the void and keep them busy and keep them active. Yeah, so those are all really good ideas. We've thought about many different things. In the next slide, I'll kind of describe kind of our core strategy for village health teams to make them sustainable. And so, our idea was to strengthen the linkage between these community health members and the health facilities that they're attached to. And so we created some kind of IEC material posters that will be hung in health facilities in the community that really spells out the linkage between the VHT. What is their role? Who are these people in these really colorful shirts in the community? What is the health facilities role in interacting with them? How is their data used? What is the community's role? What's their interaction with the community? So these posters will be hung up in the health centers and beyond. There'll be a list of the VHTs and their contact information, the days they should be reporting, so that everyone's held accountable, everyone knows what their role is, and that's one way we've used to strengthen the linkage. It certainly isn't it. It is a kind of a really complex strategy we've used, but that's kind of the cusp behind how we've approached village health team sustainability.
So the VHT sustainability was just one aspect that we looked at when we were thinking about the project sustainability. Strides as a project operates in 15 districts, in the east, in the central, and in the west. And in every district that we operate, like any great public health organization, we monitor indicators. Each district, we monitor 39 indicators. Most of them are tracked by the ministry. So what we wanted to do was we wanted to find out, district by district, which districts are able to sustain the indicators that we're monitoring after the life of Strides. So the question really was, if I pull out my 45 million US dollars, can you sustain these 39 indicators? And if not, which ones can you sustain? An example of one of the indicators we monitor, because we work in maternal mortality, is percentage of live births at health facility level. Next slide. So the way we did this, just briefly, is we went to the district. We have every single one of our districts. We approached our focal point person. We really wanted the district to be in the driving seat for this, and we asked them, can you come with 15 leaders in the health sector? Give me a team of 15. We sat with them for a 2-day workshop, and we had them go through a process of identifying which indicators they are able to sustain without our money, or without the US taxpayers' money. So, we sat with all 15 districts. On the right is the district health officer in Kamwenge. This was the process we went through. It's a very intricate process, but it has to do with looking at an indicator, looking at the resource people that are needed, looking at the resources that are needed, looking at the means of verification, and looking at timelines. And the end was this sustainability action plan per district. One thing I just want to note about this is that one thing we emphasized, because we really were not involved in the process of generating this plan, because the point is have them generate their own plan so that they are accountable to what they write down. We did try to emphasize not to attach any other project to any of the indicators they put in there. For example, in Kamwenge district, we are doing maternal mortality, and so is a different project called Baylor, which is funded by CDC. So they could have known that that indicator will stay up because Baylor is still there doing that work. But what we try to make them do is not attach Baylor's name to it and make sure that they're saying we will do this and explaining how, who in the district is going to do it. And that's the approach we really took. And we've ended up now with 15 sustainability action plans from each district. And the follow-up is just to have them presented to each other, just for accountability purposes. And then we'll see.
And finally, you should know, this is kind of, keep it light, have a sense of humor about things. But, so there are some challenges certainly in going through this process. One, we work in over 500 health facilities across the country. So, strengthening the linkage between VHTs and the in-charge, the head doctor of facilities will be different depending on personality, say. We work in 15 different districts, there's 15 different health departments, different political environments, different economic situations. And so we can't standardize it as well as we'd like to across all those 15 districts. We got kind of a late start, as Vivian mentioned. It's a buzzword, it's out there, sustainability, but to begin implementing sustainability actions in the final year of the project, as you should be closing out, is a bit late. And so, going forward, I want to just encourage you guys, especially students in attendance. You'll be working with organizations going forward once you maybe get jobs in development or global health. Don't let that be a buzzword. Don't let sustainability or capacity just be a word that you put in the reports. What are some concrete actions? And the examples you gave earlier were fantastic. So, what are some things you can write into the proposals and actually implement immediately that will make it far more likely that your good work you do on the ground continues to be done after you've packed your bags and moved back to the US. So with that, thank you very much. Yeah, thanks.
Our speaker is a former co-president at the George Washington University, and she currently is working in the Youth Ambassadors Program at the American Society for Microbiology. Okay.
Hi, so my name is Katie Stewart, and I used to be in GlobeMed, like Parker said. First, I just want to thank the National Office, and especially Alyssa, for letting me speak here. I emailed her excitedly not that long ago saying that I wanted to attend The project I'm currently working on at ASM correlates really strongly with what GlobeMed stands for and what all the partners here are working for. So before I talk about the Ambassador Program, I want to first just go through a little background of what ASM is and talk a little generally about what our program does. So the American Society for Microbiology is the oldest and largest life science organization. There are over 40,000 members worldwide, and more than 1/3 of those are international. By the end of this year, we're hoping to have at least 2/3 of our organization be international. So more and more, we are becoming an international organization with a huge network of people around the world. And just before I go on, I guess one thing that drew me first to GlobeMed was the idea that students have the ability to make a positive impact in their community. And what I really enjoy about this work now is I have that same ability with the program that I'm working on. So I like that there's that carryover from GlobeMed to what I'm working on now. And before, we can just go back one. The mission of ASM is to advance biological sciences for the improvement of health, environment, and economic well-being worldwide. I work in the international department, and we're able to accomplish that through service, capacity building, education, and global collaboration. So today I'm going to talk primarily about how ASM fits in with GlobeMed. There are a lot of different aspects to ASM, but I want to talk about how we're working alongside GlobeMed in the effort with collaboration and networking. So ASM is able to facilitate collaboration between its 40,000 members around the world, primarily through the use of journals and conferences. We also support education through grants, fellowship, travel awards, and resources for teachers. We are able to enable research and discoveries to be leveraged for others, again through the journals that we support. And we engage the public. We create support for science and technology. This is huge. Scientists are critical in promoting the public understanding of a lot of the issues that are going on around the world, from food security to environmental safety. So this is a really big thing for us to do. And journals allow for international collaboration between our scientists around the world and our members. So specifically, the international department is focused on an ambassador program. We have the senior ambassador program, which includes more than 100 senior scientists around the world, different countries, the majority of whom are international. There's one at Carey University, his name is Dennis, and he works in the influenza lab. And we have many more, and they're kind of a connection between biological sciences and the community. You heard earlier Florence from the Resilient Africa Network talk about that disconnect between laboratories and innovations and reaching out to the community. So we hope to kind of bridge that gap with the ambassador program, like the Resilient Africa Network is trying to do as well. So the Young Ambassador program just started this April. We sent out applications in December, and we approved 35 young ambassadors who are all students around the world. Most are from developing countries, although there are some from the UK, Australia, Japan, to name a few. Their mission is to engage, collaborate, and share. Each of these students came to the US in May of this year and attended ASM's general meeting, as well as they attended meetings in Washington, D.C. to form networks and to learn how to collaborate with each other. And they went back to their countries and have been tasked with starting student chapters, much like GlobeMed student chapters in the U.S. Currently, ASM has over 30 student chapters in the U.S. as well. So the next goal is to form student chapters or student partnerships between the two of those. Like I said, the next step is to form these student partnerships. So we're at this critical point where we have student chapters existing in the U.S. and we're forming these student chapters abroad. And as we all know, what you can accomplish by yourself isn't nearly what you can accomplish together. So if we form networks with the chapters in the U.S. and the chapters abroad, we think that we can accomplish a lot more with science particularly. The vision is to engage youth across the globe in cross-collaborative efforts to address science and technology challenges. It seems more and more that at universities in the U.S. and I'm sure abroad that there's this mission to kind of focus on global issues and focus on global health particularly. And this is one way that we can engage science students who are mostly focused on biology and lab work and writing reports to bridge that gap, like I said earlier, and find a connection to more, a broader application to what they're working on. A lot of the laboratories abroad that the young ambassadors are working on have to do with HIV and AIDS, malaria, tuberculosis. And this is a way for students in the US to understand some of those problems and see it through a broader lens. And, sorry, that one's fine. And just to let you guys know, the young ambassadors from Africa, they're in Zimbabwe, Sudan, Malawi, Kenya, the DRC, Cameroon, Nigeria, Mauritius, and Egypt. And we're hoping to have another one at Macquarie University as well, but that would be probably next summer that we'd start that. In addition to the Young Ambassador Program, we're starting ASM Cultures. This is going to be a journal primarily for the Young Ambassadors as well as the American students and other collaborators as well. So other scientists or public health students can contribute to this journal. It'll be a way to connect those students in the US who aren't able to get abroad, or those who are abroad who are able to come to the US to understand more of the research that's going on. And just to reiterate what we've been talking about today, we've been talking a lot about partnerships and networking, and ASM is again one of many organizations that participates in networks and partnerships. We do a lot of international partnerships with national societies of science, universities, ministries of health, WHO, PATH, CDC, UNESCO. And one thing that I really like about the Young Ambassador Program, it's more grassroots. These are all very high-level partnerships that we've formed, and I think it's important to make that connection to the youth, specifically, and to students, to realize the potential that they can have, and to relate that more to communities, as we've been talking about all day. And thank you for letting me talk. That's all I have to say, and I thank GlobeMed and all the partners here. I think that what your work has done will inspire our program to come, and hopefully that we can all work together in the future.
So today we talked about a lot of interesting subjects. Power of community, cross-sector perspective. So all these different institutions that can aid our work with our partners and with our allies. We talked about how media can be transformative to really breach into new areas where we can talk to people and really meet people where they are and really expand our projects as they are already. And we talked about the power of collaboration. So the rest of tonight, we have a little bit of time for people to continue to network, to really talk and engage some people that you haven't met yet in some conversations. And I think that's really where we need to take collaboration to heart and find where we can form new partnerships tonight. So before we head out, I have just a few announcements to make. Partners, please be ready for the Siegel Family Foundation reception by 6 p.m. at Fairway. Students, we're free to enjoy ourselves here in Derry. We can either have dinner here or find dinner in town. Tomorrow morning, partners should be in the lobby at 7:30, and students should be ready here at 8:30. For partners going to the Siegel meeting tonight, we will miss you tomorrow, but thank you so much for coming. Can we give a round of applause for those people? And finally, if you're expecting a travel grant, you can expect it during lunch tomorrow. Thanks again for such an incredible day. I look forward to tomorrow with all of you.